What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
10 LS. Chapter 226. Doflamingo is seriously injured. Moran just happened to come to the roof not far from Acedus, and when he heard Doflamingo's words, he rolled his eyes speechlessly. If the birdcage really can't be broken, then we can break it in another way, and kill you directly, wouldn't it be over? The ability released by Demon Fruit Power, as long as people are killed or stunned, the ability can be stopped. This is the common sense of ability users. It is impossible for Doflamingo not to know, he is just bluffing. Thinking of this, Mo Day turned towards Acedus, and shouted to remind him. Acedus, don't believe his nonsense, this birdcage will disappear naturally as long as he is killed, just kill him directly. Quote. Hearing what Moran said, Acedus looked at Moran with a smile and replied, I see, I promise to kill him as quickly as possible. After finishing speaking, Acedus swooped down to Doflamingo with an overwhelming momentum, waved the long knife in his hand, and slashed down on the head. How the hell did this be D no? Doflamingo didn't have time to think about it, because Acedus' knife had already come down, his arm quickly covered Hawkeye, and he punched towards the falling knife. Clang. Boom. Rumble. The air waves generated by the collision carried black lightning, and spread unscrupulously in all directions. Under Doflamingo's feet, spider webs appeared on the ground and quickly spread to the surrounding houses. The houses were more and more cracked and collapsed immediately, and a piece of houses fell down, kicked up a large cloud of dust. When the dust cleared and calm was restored, Doflamingo and Acedus remained in the same posture as when they collided. On Doflamingo's pitch-black fist, there was a deep bone wound, and the blood flowed down his arm, dripping onto the ground. Doflamingo looked at the bleeding fist and asked with an ugly face, is it the armed color emission Hawkeye? He stays in New World all the year round, how could he not know this kind of Hawkeye? This kind of Hawkeye can only be used by the top powerhouses, although he has heard of this kind of Hawkeye, but he himself does not know how to use this kind of Hawkeye. Acedus didn't answer his question, but quickly covered Hawkeye with his foot, raised his foot and kicked him hard in the chest. Bump. Boom. Rumbling. Doflamingo was still in shock and couldn't react at all. He was kicked and flew upside down and smashed into a house, which collapsed. When the dust dissipated, the houses around Doflamingo disappeared, replaced by a transparent sea of lines. The transparent sea of lines rolls like ocean waves. This is Doflamingo's Devil Fruit Awakening ability, which can turn the surrounding things, including buildings, into transparent lines. Standing on the roof not far away, Moran saw Doflamingo standing on a thin white line, and wondered in his heart, is this the awakening ability of Doflamingo? Doflamingo's strength is not strong, but this guy's ability development is really good. A string fruit has been played by him. If he eats a top-level Devil Fruit, with the ability of Devil Fruit and his Hawkeye alone, it is estimated that he can reach the level of Marine Admiral. Just like Marine Admiral Kizaru, that guy's taijutsu and Hawkeye are not strong, but he has a good life, eating the top Devil Fruit. White line. Doflamingo arranged tens of thousands of transparent white thin lines horizontally, forming a raging wave attack like a sea wave, surging up from the bottom of the Acedus, gradually approaching the Acedus in the middle, and finally forming a huge twist. Spraying the white thread, trying to trap Acedus in the thread and grind it to pieces. How could Acedus let him succeed? Soaring straight into the sky, shuttling between a huge wave of white lines, the white lines can't even touch the hem of her clothes, let alone crush him. Acedus, who was in the air, raised the knife in his hand, towards the direction of Doflamingo on the ground, and slashed down fiercely with one knife. Clang. A huge blue slash directly split the chasing huge twisted white wave into two, and the slash continued to rush towards Doflamingo. Shield white line. Doflamingo was well aware of the horror of this woman, and he didn't dare to neglect at all. With a wave of his hands, several huge lines emerged from the ground, blocking the only way to slash. Asking for flowers. Quote exclamation mark quote. The slash collided with the huge line, and after a stalemate for a while, the slash finally dissipated powerlessly. Doflamingo saw that the huge lines were almost split open, and the cold sweat flowed down uncontrollably. This woman is too scary. Doflamingo didn't have time to think about it, because after Acedus fell, he rushed towards her again brandishing a long knife. Big wave white line. He turned everything around him into lines again, forming huge lines one after another, and directly hit the rushing Acedus. Bang bang bang. Acedus flashed one huge line after another, his figure was as fast as lightning, and continued to swoop towards Doflamingo. 0. Acedus appeared in the sky behind Doflamingo in an instant, raised the knife in his hand, and slashed down fiercely. A red light flashed in Doflamingo's eyes, and he sensed the danger behind him with his knowledge, but his body couldn't react, and he secretly thought that it was terrible. Wow. Sure enough, a deep wound was directly cut on his back, and the blood flowed down like he didn't want money. Doflamingo didn't care about the pain. A donkey rolled away from Acedus in embarrassment, and stopped after running more than 10 meters away. Doflamingo turned around and looked at Acedus with an ugly face. He was seriously injured in less than 10 minutes. This woman is too strong. He didn't fight Moran so hard just now, at least he could hold on for a while before he was beaten flying. This woman had already seriously injured him within 10 minutes. What Doflamingo doesn't know is that Acedus is a battle-hardened man, while Moran has only been a pirate for a few years, of course there is no comparison. If Moran didn't use those strange abilities, if he fought with Acedus with the same strength, Acedus would definitely win, because Moran's combat experience couldn't compare with these battle-hardened summoned characters. What? Chapter 227, Doflamingo. With a gloomy face, Doflamingo asked Acedus, I heard that you Wanjian pirates are going to take over half of the territory of the Whitebeard pirates. You can't manage it with your manpower. Why do you want to attack Germany? Where's Reese Rosa? Doflamingo wanted to delay time. He was currently using his ability to repair the wound behind him. If the wound on his back was not dealt with quickly, no one else would need to do it. He would probably die from excessive blood loss. Acedus was about to rush over to make up the knife. When he heard what Doflamingo said, he thought for a while and replied, I don't know about this, but Moran wants to kill you. It's not a day or two, since the first time he wants to kill you when he meets you. Hearing this, Doflamingo's face darkened, and he roared half-truthfully, Alphad Moran, B**************, D, how did I offend him? As for killing me to such an extent. Acedus replied blankly, you can only ask him yourself, but you probably won't have this chance. Not far away, Moran saw the two of them stop suddenly, and glanced at Doflamingo. He knew what this guy wanted to do at 21. He probably was delaying time, and then secretly repaired the injury. Thinking of this, Moran yelled at Acedus to remind him. Acedus is delaying time, his ability can repair injuries, don't talk so much nonsense to him, kill him directly. Although Doflamingo couldn't beat Acedus after recovering from his injury, he didn't want this guy to succeed, he just wanted to see this guy get frustrated. Sure enough, Doflamingo was caught off guard, and directly yelled at Moran. Alphad Moran, you be D, even if I die, I won't let you go. After Doflamingo finished cursing with a dark face, he shot straight into the sky, rushed towards Moran, and used his ability Sky's Path to quickly approach Moran. Boom. How could Acedus let him succeed, and disappeared directly in place, where she stepped on a big hole, and her men came to the sky behind Doflamingo in an instant, and slashed down fiercely with a knife. Wow. The wound on Doflamingo's back has not been healed yet, and there is another deep wound with visible bone, bleeding profusely. Doflamingo was slashed again in the back, and he rushed towards Moran as if he didn't know the pain. Acedus, who was in the air behind him, saw this scene, quickly covered Hawkeye with his feet, stepped on it ruthlessly. Bump. Boom. Boom. Doflamingo was directly stepped on and fell down, like a meteorite falling down. The ground spider web spread rapidly in all directions, and the houses on the ground collapsed in pieces, as if the whole ground was going to be turned upside down. The house under Moran's feet was full of cobwebs, and it was about to collapse. Green energy shot up from Yuan Lan's body. Moran came to Acedus' side, hugged her as she was falling, and flew far away, and landed on a roof that was not collapsed by the aftermath. Moran looked down at Acedus, who was hugging him tightly like an octopus, and said helplessly, can you get off me? Acedus reluctantly got off Moran, and secretly complained in his heart. This guy is so hateful, she only hugged it for a while, and she hasn't had enough of it yet. Moran didn't know what she was thinking. He looked at the ruined streets, rubbed his head with a headache and said, Acedus will be our territory in the future, and now the streets are ruined by you. Acedus thought of the big pit within 100 meters, rolled his eyes and said angrily, you have destroyed the streets no less than me. Would you mind telling me? When Moran was told by Acedus, he remembered that when he fought Doflamingo, there seemed to be a lot of ruined streets, no matter how he would admit such a thing. Moran rubbed his nose in embarrassment, stiffened his neck and argued, that big hole was made by Doflamingo, what's none of my business. Moran didn't give Acedus a chance to refute, and then asked, I don't know if Doflamingo is dead, why don't you check it out? Yes, almost forgot about him, I'll go check it out. After finishing speaking, Acedus jumped off the roof and rushed to the place where Doflamingo fell, and disappeared in a flash. Moran looked at Acedus walking away, and thought to himself, fortunately, he reacted quickly and changed the subject directly, otherwise he would be embarrassed. Suddenly a red light flashed in Moran's eyes, and he turned into an element directly, turning into a bolt of lightning that soared into the sky, appearing hundreds of meters away in an instant. Clap. Moran, who turned into lightning, landed directly behind two people, a man and a woman. When they heard the movement behind them, they turned around to check. When he saw a flashing thunder and lightning, the man protected the little girl behind him and stared at the lightning with a wary face. He was relieved until the lightning slowly turned into Moran's appearance. Moran looked at the two and asked with a smile, you dare to watch the battle here, aren't you afraid of death? Cyrus replied respectfully, Master Dragon Emperor, I am sure you know the relationship between me and this kingdom very well, so I am very eager to know the outcome of this war. I am a person who has died once, so it doesn't matter if you die again. It's none of my business whether you die or not. It doesn't matter if you die, but nothing will happen to my future daughter-in-law. Cyrus wants to stop himself from approaching Rebecca with all his heart, I can't let you die sooner. Thinking of this, Moran asked with a dark face, you brought my future daughter-in-law to such a dangerous place. If something happens to her, how can you compensate me? Rebecca ran up to Cyrus suddenly, and explained to Moran, I asked my father to bring me here, big brother, don't blame my father, okay. Moran looked at Rebecca, a little lowly, protecting Cyrus, and said angrily, hey. It's only been a day since we met, and you're just protecting him like this. Seeing that Moran didn't believe her words, Rebecca quickly explained, I didn't protect my father, what I said is true, big brother, you have to believe me. Moran said unhappily, Okay, I believe you can do it. You get out of the way and I have to discuss something with your father. Chapter 228. Another meeting between Moran and Cyrus. Seeing the little lowly shaking her head wildly, Moran still refused to let go, and teased her directly. Rebecca, you don't listen to me so much, be careful, I don't want you anymore. Hearing this, Rebecca's face turned red to the back of her ears in an instant. She lowered her head shyly and pinched the corner of her clothes, and whispered, I'm not obedient, and I haven't even promised to marry you yet. Although Rebecca murmured softly, but Moran heard it clearly, leaned closer and whispered, you can decide whether to marry me or not, I have the final say on this matter. You, how can you be so domineering? Rebecca stammered, then hid behind Cyrus, showing a small head and complaining, Father, he bullied me. Moran looked at Rebecca, who still had a childlike heart, and said secretly in his heart, it's hard to imagine that she will become so mature and stable after 2 years, probably because she has experienced a lot of suffering in the arena. Otherwise, it wouldn't be the Rebecca of the sexy royal sister fan 2 years later, but the kawaii Rebecca is not bad now. When Cyrus saw Rebecca being bullied, he was angry and helpless. He kept standing aside and staged a face-changing Sichuan opera, but he couldn't do anything about Moran. It would be fine if he wasn't here, but flirting with his daughter in front of his 163 father, that's a bit too much. In order to avoid embarrassment, Cyrus changed the subject and asked, Master Dragon King, didn't you just say that you wanted to talk to me? Moran looked away from Rebecca, looked at Cyrus and asked, do you know that there is a sword fighter named Ricky? Then he added, he usually wears a mask to participate in duels in the arena. He is a sword fighter who only uses a sword without a shield. Have you ever seen or heard of it? Moran just remembered that after King Liku was forced to step down from the throne, he wore a mask under the alias Ricky, but he didn't know if this old guy had made a name for himself in the arena now. If he hadn't become famous in the arena, most people probably don't know him. Cyrus recalled for a while, and finally found the sword fighter wearing a blue cloak and a mask in the corner of his mind, and replied directly, I have not only heard of Ricky the sword fighter, but also seen him. He has participated in a duel in the arena. Do you have anything to do with him? Moran didn't intend to hide it, and explained directly, that guy is King Liku, and he has been living in this way since he was forced to step down from the throne. Cyrus asked again excitedly, sword fighter Ricky is King Riku, is what you said true? Of course it's true, do I have to lie to you? After being confirmed by Moran, Cyrus looked excited, and was about to rush over to give Moran a hug of love. Moran immediately got goosebumps all over the ground, raised his foot and kicked Cyrus flying upside down and smashed into a house not far away. Boom. Rumble. The house was directly smashed by Cyrus and collapsed, kicking up a cloud of dust, and Cyrus was directly buried in the ruins. A big man still wants to hug him. How could Moran let him succeed? His arms are for girls, not for big men who pick their feet. Father. When Rebecca saw that Moran kicked Cyrus away, it was stunned. After realizing it yelled and ran into the ruins to save Cyrus. Father, are you okay? Father. Rebecca yelled for her father while pawing at the ruins of the house. She turned over the boards one by one, and tears could not stop falling down. Moran looked at the crying Rebecca, touched his nose in embarrassment, walked over to comfort him. Rebecca, your father is fine. This kind of shock is like scratching an itch for him. You don't worry too much. Rebecca turned her head angrily, showing a small and fierce CBAA expression and said, HMPH. Big brother, you are a bad guy, only bad people beat father. Boom. As soon as Rebecca finished speaking, Cyrus pushed aside a collapsed wall and stood up, but his clothes were a little tattered and he was not injured. Father, are you okay? I'm fine, don't worry. Rebecca. After standing up, Cyrus comforted Rebecca when he saw Rebecca crying like a little tabby cat. After Cyrus comforted Rebecca, he turned his head to look at Moran, and said apologetically, Master Dragon King was agitated just now, I'm really sorry, don't take it to heart. Moran touched his nose, and said awkwardly, I also have something wrong, conditioned reflex can't help, how is it? Didn't hurt you. After all, he is the father-in-law in the future, so it is better not to make the relationship too rigid, otherwise it will be difficult to attack Rebecca in the future. It's okay, this level of shock is nothing, you don't need to take it to heart. Cyrus didn't expect Moran to be so easy to talk, and said flattered. Rebecca glared at him with a nasty little expression, but Cyrus kept apologizing. The atmosphere was a bit embarrassing. Moran wanted to get rid of this embarrassing situation, so he said directly, go find King Liku. After we wipe out the Don Quixote family, he will be needed to manage this country. Cyrus asked with a face full of surprise, do you mean to return de Res Rosa to the Riku family? He thought that Moran came here to attack de Res Rosa because he wanted to occupy this place, so he came to attack here, but he didn't expect that Moran wanted to return de Res Rosa to the Liku clan. Moran corrected with a black face, I suspect that there is something wrong with your ears. What I said was to manage it for him, not to return de Res Rosa to them. Do you understand what I mean? So that's the case. Cyrus scratched his head and said after knowing that he had misunderstood. Moran didn't want to spend any more time here, so he rushed people directly. Okay, stop talking so much nonsense, go and find King Liku. I'll look for it right away, and I'll definitely help you find King Riku, so don't worry. Cyrus left with Rebecca after assuring Moran. Moran looked at the two people who were walking away slowly, and after staying in place for a while, Bar turned around and passed in the direction Acedus left. He originally wanted Rebecca to be the king, but the current Rebecca is still too young, let's wait a few years to talk about it. Chapter 229 Two Sisters v 3 Cadres. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. More. 734. 184. 245. The three cadres of the Don Quixote family were fleeing towards the port, but when they reached the edge of the birdcage, they all stopped. With this birdcage blocking here, they can only escape after Doflamingo removes the birdcage, otherwise they have no way to escape. At this time, the birdcage covering the entire de Res Rosa is slowly shrinking to the center of the island. The ground and houses seem to be made of tofu, and the places where the lines pass are divided into two, no matter how hard it is. Without exception, were divided into two by. Looking at this scene, Lao Ji opened his mouth to analyze. Dover has even used this move of killing each other, I think we have no hope of escaping. Diamante said with an ugly face. The enemies this time are too strong. Dover must have used birdcage, a move that kills them all, because he felt that there was no hope of escape. Baby 5 asked. Since we can't go out now, should we go back and help? After thinking for a while, Lao Ji replied. The members of Wanjian pirates are too strong. Not only will we not be able to help you when we go back, but it will also drag Dover down. Baby 5 asked again with a little reluctance. Can we just wait, can't we do anything? Lao Ji and Diamante looked at each other, they both lowered their heads and chose to remain silent. They didn't go back to help because they were afraid of death, but the scene of fighting with Moran not long ago is still vivid in their memory. They didn't even touch Moran's clothes Kakuzu once they arrived, they were all defeated, and going back now would only be a disservice. Cadres of the Don Quixote family, you are really easy for me to find. Yes, they are too good at hiding. The three cadres of the Don Quixote family heard the sound, turned around and looked in the direction of the sound, and saw two girls approaching here. One was floating in midair, and the other was walking slowly. They were the two sisters of Tornado who were looking for the cadres of the Don Quixote family all over the streets and alleys. Diamante said with an ugly face. That's the combat member of the Wanjian pirates, have they all chased here? Lao Ji glanced at birdcage behind him, he knew that he couldn't escape now, so he said directly. We have no way out, we can only fight with them, we have a front line. Machine. Let's go together. After Diamante said something, he immediately rushed to the two sisters of Tornado, followed by the two cadres behind him. Seeing the three cadres rushing over, Fushui said to Long Wan beside him, you are not allowed to rob me, I haven't done anything since I came here. With suspicious eyes, Long Wan glanced at Fushui and asked, there are three enemies, can you do it alone? Seeing Tornado's suspicious gaze, Fushui jumped into a rage and shouted, I can do what you can do, you look down on people. After Fubuki finished speaking, he floated up, a ball of energy emerged from his hands, and suddenly blown up around him. A gust of wind swept countless gravels on the ground into the whirling wind. Nirvana. Hell Lane. Fushui looked at the three cadres rushing towards him and waved his hand. Countless boulders were entrained in the storm, and they quickly met the three cadres. Not good. Get out of the way. Diamante, who rushed to the front, was the first to discover the tornado-like storm. A donkey rolled aside in embarrassment, and did not forget to remind the two people behind him before fleeing. Hearing Diamante's reminder, the other two cadres rolled aside without even thinking about it. Although they were a little embarrassed, they all escaped. Boom. Rumbling. The storm like a tornado directly hit a house not far away, and the house was directly uprooted. After the storm dissipated, it fell again, and the house was smashed to pieces. The tornado was suspended not far away, and she was surrounded by a layer of green energy. Even the storm couldn't get close to her. Whenever there were boulders flying towards her, they would be bounced away by the green energy. Seeing that the storm didn't hit anyone, Tornado showed a disdainful expression and said sarcastically, you can't even hit anyone. Shushue is your only talent. Seeing that Shushue ignored him, Tornado continued, let my elder sister teach you what a real battle is. Ask for flowers. Fushui didn't want to talk to her at first, but when she saw that the tornado was going to make a move, she immediately became unhappy, and said through gritted teeth, you are not allowed to make a move in my battle, or I will tell Master Moran about your scandal when you were a child. When Long Wan heard Fushui's threat, his face darkened in an instant. The two of them grew up together, and she did have a lot of black material in Fushui's hands. Thinking of Moran getting her black material, goosebumps popped up all over Longjuan's body. If this happened, she would probably be ashamed to face anyone. Thinking of this, Long Wan said with a dark face, this time, my lord sister will not care about you, if you still threaten me with this next time, I will go and expose your black history first. 0. After the tornado finished speaking, she turned her head very arrogantly, and flew towards the roof of a house not far away. She wanted to find a good seat and watch the show. Fubuki's complexion is not as good looking as that of Tornado, who didn't have a dark history when she was a child, and she also has some black material in Tornado's hands. Half Moon Funeral. Diamante raised the long sword in his hand, and then swung the sword out, arousing a powerful wave of sword energy, and the sword energy slashed towards Chushui. Seeing the sword energy swiftly slashing towards her, Fubuki didn't think too much about what she had or what, her hands showed power again, and the two palms quickly joined together. Bump. The ground in front of her suddenly turned up into two pieces of land, and the sword energy was caught in the middle of the ground, and the sword energy was directly caught by the ground wallet and dissipated in the ground. Di Wang fist. Rao Ji made a gesture of the English letter G with both hands, and suddenly appeared behind Fubuki, just about to sneak up on Fuyuki from behind. Bump. The ground under Lao Ji's feet suddenly turned up without any warning, like a meat sandwich, and he was directly caught in the ground. Lao Ji. Baby 5 saw Lao Ji who was caught in the ground, and shouted, but there was no movement in the ground. Baby 5 gritted his teeth and yelled at Fubuki. You be asterisk 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 D, let me die. Chapter 230. The Powerless Cadres. After Baby 5 finished speaking, his arm turned into a Gatling machine gun with blue flames, aiming at Fuyuki and firing a burst of fire. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Fubuki floated in midair, emitting a cloud of energy from his body, using superpowers to control the storm, forming a storm wall around his body. Tinkling. Jingle. All the bullets hit the storm wall and were blocked from the storm wall. Because the storm rotates like a tornado, the bullets are scattered everywhere, like needles in a rainstorm. Boom. At this time, the land holding Lao Ji suddenly exploded, exposing the Lao Ji inside. At this time, the Lao Ji in Lao Ji has changed greatly, and its body and volume have increased to several times its original size. This is Lao Ji's Di Wang Fist, esoteric meaning, in order to be able to fight even when one is sick, injured or old and unable to cope, it is a kind of qigong that accumulates and preserves the strength of youth and strength in the body surgery. After using this qigong technique, his physique and muscles will grow explosively, and his strength and skills will also return to the peak era when he was proficient. The only disadvantage is that this trick cannot last for too long, and the body will return to its original shape after a long time. De Wang Fist's ultimate secret technique: combat and protective fist. Roar. Rao Ji clenched his fists and shouted towards the sky. He was about to find trouble with Fubuki, but he was interrupted before he even started. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Jingle. Jingle. Baby 5's Gatling machine gun with blue flames was still firing at Fubuki, causing Lao Ji who was on the side to be affected as well. Rao Ji can only cover Hawkeye with his hands, he is only a mortal body but cannot block the bullets with his body, and only afterimages can be seen with his hands being swung by him. Jingle. Lao Ji gritted his teeth with a dark face, and yelled at Baby 5 while blocking the bullet. Baby 5, stop shooting at me quickly, your weapon doesn't work against her at all, and on the contrary, it affects my performance. Yes. When Baby 5 heard this, he stopped attacking without hesitation, covered his face with his hands and said to himself, I'm needed again. Seeing that Baby 5 was not attacking, Fubuki also landed on the ground. Seeing that Baby 5 was in a daze, how could she miss this opportunity? Boom. The land disappeared in place in an instant, leaving only a big pit in place, as if to prove that she had appeared here before. When Fubuki reappeared, he was already behind Baby 5, his feet quickly covered Hawkeye, and his 1.2-meter long legs swept across the baby's head. Baby 5, she's behind you. Diamante saw this scene not far away, and hurriedly yelled at Baby 5 to remind him, but Baby 5 couldn't react at all. Bump. Boom. Rumbling. Baby 5 was swept upside down and flew out, smashing through one house after another. After smashing through several houses, it hit a wall and stopped. After Fubuki was summoned, Moran also improved her strength, and Hawkeye arranged everything for her clearly. It's just that she is not used to fighting in this way yet, so she just used superpowers when she came up. She just wanted to try out the newly acquired abilities, but she didn't expect the effect to be pretty good. Baby 5, are you okay? Diamante asked loudly in the direction of Baby 5. However, he didn't get any response. At this time, Baby 5 was completely trapped in the wall, as if he had passed out, and there was no movement at all. Seeing that there was no response, Diamante yelled at Fubuki directly, you be asterisk 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 D, you dare to attack Baby 5, go to hell with me. Search. However, before Diamante could make a move, Fubuki appeared in front of him in an instant, raised his 1.2-meter long legs again, and swept towards Diamante's head. Because the speed of blowing snow was too fast, Diamante only had time to hold the long sword horizontally in front of his body, trying to use the hard blade to resist the jet black leg that swept over. Click. Touch. Diamante's long sword was directly swept off, and then his whole body was swept upside down and smashed into a house. Boom. Rumbling. The house was directly smashed and collapsed, and Diamante was also buried in the ruins, raising a cloud of dust. Fushui is now a little fond of this way of fighting, rushing up as a hammer, much more interesting than fighting with her ability. Fubuki looked at the ruins around her, she finally found a way to surpass her sister, and secretly made up her mind to practice more in the world's combat system in the future. She really can't compare with her sister in terms of superpowers, but she doesn't believe that if she changes the fighting system, she will still lose to her sister. Thinking of this, Fushui glanced at Tornado, who was sitting on the roof not far away watching the play, and thought secretly, wait for me, sooner or later I will surpass you. Seeing Chushui's stupefied look, Lao Ji directly soared into the sky, with both hands in the pose of the English letter G, and swooped down towards Fushui. The engraving of G177. A red light suddenly flashed in Fushui's eyes, and the knowledgeable color felt Lao Ji rushing down, and after regaining consciousness, he disappeared in place in an instant. Seeing Chushui run away, Lao Ji immediately blew his beard and stared angrily, but the Qigong palm could not be retracted, so he could only directly hit the empty ground. Boom. Rumbling. Lao Ji's Qigong palm hit the ground, and the ground was directly shaken by the bombardment, kicking up a cloud of dust, and the air wave carried the dust to the surroundings. When all the dust cleared up, a huge G-shaped pit was blasted out on the ground, and Lao Ji was standing beside the pit, holding his waist 10 out of breath. Fu Shui looked at the panting Lao Ji, and complained a little speechlessly. You can't even practice with me, you people are too weak. Lao Ji's face darkened instantly when he heard this, and he yelled at Fu Shui without shame. Don't get carried away, if I have a young body, I will definitely be 100 times stronger than you. Fu Shui looked at Lao Ji who was almost out of breath, and said with disdain, where are there so many ifs, and even if you have a young body, you are still not my opponent. Chapter 231. Fu Shui sent 2 senior cadres back to the west. Lao Ji is not trying to quibble. In fact, he knows better than anyone else that except that Chu Shui is not as rich as him in combat experience, he is inferior to Chu Shui in everything else. Fu Shui didn't want to waste time here anymore, the energy from his body slowly floated up, and he looked at Lao Ji expressionlessly and said, since you are useless, please go to hell. The storm around Fu Shui was getting stronger and stronger, and Lao Ji couldn't stand still due to the wind. A huge tornado slowly formed, and countless gravel and wooden boards around were sucked into the tornado. Super Hell Tornado. With a wave of Fu Shui's hand, a huge tornado hit Lao Ji, and the tornado became bigger and bigger, as if connecting the sky and the earth. Hoo, crack, crack, bang bang bang. Wherever the tornado passed, no matter if it was a house or something, everything was sucked in, as if it was going to swallow the whole world. Lao Ji saw this tornado that seemed to connect heaven and earth coming, he turned around and ran without thinking, if he was caught in it, he would be smashed to pieces. However, how could Fu Shui let him run away? He came to Lao Ji in a few flashes, and kicked him without saying a word. Bump. Rao 220G only had time to cross his arms in front of him, but he was kicked and flew upside down, and the direction of flying was exactly the direction of the tornado. Oops. If you get involved, you will die. Lao Ji, who was flying in the air, changed his expression greatly and exclaimed. He couldn't stop in midair, struggled for a while but couldn't stop, and finally he could only close his eyes as if resigned to his fate, waiting for the arrival of death. Diamante, who had just stood up from the ruins, saw this scene and shouted, look at me, Lao Ji, grab my sword. Sword long sword. Diamante took out another long sword from nowhere, turned the western sword into a light and fluffy shape like silk, and pointed the sword at Lao Ji. The western sword became longer in an instant until it stopped at Lao Ji's side, and then the western sword wound around his waist several times like a snake while restoring the original hardness of the sword body. When Lao Ji saw the life-saving straw, he even grabbed the blade of the sword. The tornado was still sucking him in, and his whole body was floating in the air. As soon as Mandy let go, he would be smashed to pieces immediately. Although Diamante was seriously injured, he still firmly grasped the long sword in his hand, but the suction of the tornado was too strong, and he couldn't pull it back directly. Diamante tried it but couldn't pull it back. Her face gradually darkened. This situation is very unfavorable to them now. Both of them can't move now. If Fubuki attacks at this time, both of them will be finished. Lao Ji also thought of this, and said directly, DST, please let go. Otherwise, both of us will die. Diamante held on to the western sword without saying a word, and he knew this, but it didn't matter whether he let go now, because he felt a person appeared behind him. Since you all want to die so much, let's die together. Fubuki appeared behind Diamante at some point, and kicked Diamante's back after speaking. Bump. Diamante was directly kicked towards Rao Ji, and both of them were quickly sucked in by the tornado, and slowly disappeared from sight. Fubuki ended the battle very regrettably. She has not mastered the abilities of Haki newly acquired, after all, she has not done much since she just came here. She originally wanted to use them to cultivate, but she felt that these people were too weak to play a role in cultivation at all. The tornado is coming this way. Not good. Run away. If you get caught in it, you're doomed. The people around here were frightened when they saw the tornado connecting the sky and the earth, and fled away in the distance. The tornado also flew towards Fu Shui, and when he approached, he asked directly, Chu Shui will be our territory in the future. If you destroy it like this, aren't you afraid that Moran will hit you PG? After being reminded by the tornado, Fu Shui also remembered why they came here this time, but he still insisted, I don't need you to worry about my affairs, and I'm not afraid of Moran hitting me. Although Fu Shui said that he was not afraid, he still levitated obediently, using superpowers to control the tornado, preventing it from expanding further, and then gradually shrinking under the control of the tornado, and the tornado disappeared without a trace after a while. Tornado at the side saw the hard-spoken Fu Shui, and mocked with a small expression of disdain. Cut. I thought you were really not afraid. When Chu Shui heard this, she just glanced at Tornado. She knew that she was in the wrong this time, so she didn't intend to take care of Tornado. Seeing that Chu Shui didn't bicker with her, Long Wan didn't continue to sarcasm, and asked, are those 3 cadres dead? Fubuki replied as he walked towards Baby 5. The 2 male cadres have been smashed to pieces, and the female cadre is still alive, but she must be dying too soon. Tornado also followed and came to a wall, and saw that Baby 5 who was trapped in the wall was indeed still alive, but she had more air intake and less air output. If she was left alone, she would die soon. Fu Shui looked at Tornado and asked, should we save her? Long Wan looked like he had nothing to do with himself and said, this is your own battle, and you defeated this person, so you decide for yourself. After Tornado finished speaking, she flew into the distance without looking back. She is still angry about Fu Shui not letting her participate in the battle and threatening her just now. Seeing the tornado slowly flying away, Fu Shui didn't know what to do. Let her kill a woman in a coma, she couldn't do it. Fubuki stood there thinking for a long time, and the group said to himself, take her back and let Master Moran make a decision. After Chushui made a decision, he kicked directly to the wall in front of him. Boom! Boom! The wall, which was already full of cracks, collapsed directly, kicking up a cloud of dust. At the moment the wall collapsed, Fubuki grabbed Baby 5 and jumped straight into the sky, leaving the area where the wall collapsed. Chapter 232, Ace Day hunts down Doflamingo. Bang bang bang. At this time, Doflamingo was using his ability to scurry around in midair. Every time his feet landed, there was an invisible line, and every time he stepped on it, he flew tens of meters away. Shish! Ice thorns flew towards Doflamingo from bottom to top. Doflamingo was in the air with an ugly face, jumping up and down to dodge and dodge, but he didn't dare to stay longer. After dodging the ice thorns, he started to run forward again. Doflamingo glanced at Acedus, who was chasing after him, and cursed. You crazy woman, is there any end? Bang search. Acedus jumped on the roofs of each house and launched a relentless 833 pursuit of Doflamingo. Every time he jumped, he flew tens of meters into the air, and followed Doflamingo repeatedly. Facing Doflamingo's question, Acedus replied excitedly, you made me interested in hunting, so you can run away as much as you want. After a pause, he continued, you better not let me catch up, or when I catch up with you, it will be your death. Hail-free leap. After finishing speaking, Acedus summoned a huge ice puck and smashed it directly in the direction of Doflamingo. Foo, foo, foo. When Doflamingo heard the sound of breaking through the air behind him, his soul suddenly froze, and his knowledge followed him to warn him crazily. He could only turn around and kick the puck fiercely. Boom. Rumble. Because the huge ice ball did not cover hockey, it was directly kicked by Doflamingo, and it was broken into pieces and fell to the ground like a hailstone. Boom. After Doflamingo kicked the hockey puck, he started to run away non-stop. He had no doubts about what Acedus said. Being chased by this crazy woman would only lead to death. The two started a new round of chasing each other, with Doflamingo escaping desperately in front and Acedus chasing after him. At this time, Moran was full of green energy, and was slowly rushing towards Acedus and Doflamingo. The entire de Reis Rosa Island is within the coverage of his observation hockey, and nothing that happens on the island can escape his knowledge. Regarding the explosions that came from time to time, he also knew what was going on. He wanted to take care of them when he first saw them wreaking havoc, but after stopping it once or twice without any effect, he didn't bother to take care of these things. He is not a saint after all. After flying for a while, Moran finally saw Acedus who was chasing Doflamingo. At this time, Doflamingo was seriously injured, his clothes were covered in blood and his clothes were in tatters, and there were countless wounds on his body. Moran saw that Acedus was having a great time playing, so he probably didn't intend to end the battle quickly, otherwise Doflamingo wouldn't be able to survive now. Moran could only approach the past, and when he came to Acedus, he opened his mouth to remind. Acedus, don't play for too long. His birdcage is shrinking towards the center of the island. If you don't move faster, wait for his birdcage to shrink after that, many people will die on this island. Acedus glanced at Moran, his eyes evasively quibbled. It's not that I don't want to kill him, but that he's really good at running. Moran saw that Acedus' eyes were dodging, but he still looked like a dead duck. In order to prevent her from continuing to play, Moran said directly, I will give you another 10 minutes. If you have not solved Doflamingo within 10 minutes, I will get rid of him personally. 10 minutes is not enough, give me another hour, okay. Acedus bargained to Moran who was floating beside him while jumping on the roof to chase Doflamingo. Moran rolled his eyes speechlessly, and said angrily, you've been chasing him for an hour, and you haven't gotten tired of playing until now. After a pause, Moran reminded with a blank face, you still have 9 minutes, you have time to bargain with me here, why don't you catch up and beat Doflamingo for a while? Stingy. Huh. Seeing that Moran refused to agree, Acedus yelled a word, soared into the sky as fast as lightning, caught up with Doflamingo in a few flashes, and slashed at Doflamingo without saying a word. Doflamingo warned wildly with knowledge, but he just turned around and before he had time to make any defenses, a long knife slashed at him. Wow. Doflamingo was sent flying upside down and fell to the ground. A cloud of blood burst out in the air, as if the sky was raining blood. Seeing Acedus' speed, Moran was speechless for a while, and secretly complained in his heart. Just now you said you were just playing, but you didn't admit it, now you are not calling yourself. Boom. Rumbling. Doflamingo slammed down on the ground, cracking the ground one after another, kicking up a cloud of dust, and there was no movement in the dust for a long time. When the dust cleared away, I saw Doflamingo struggling to get up, but his whole body was staggering, as if he might fall down at any time. Emission Ice Phoenix Slash. Acedus swooped down with overwhelming momentum and attacked Doflamingo again. He raised the knife above his head and began to gather strength, and then slashed down fiercely. A huge ice phoenix formed by slashing quickly flew down towards Doflamingo on the ground. 16 holy bullets hyphenation point god kill. Doflamingo shouted 4.2 loudly, and the ground in the house suddenly began to quickly turn into thin white lines, like a sea of white lines. After assimilating to the house on the ground, it soared into the sky and brought 15 twisted high-density armored wave curves to stab the electric ice phoenix at an extremely fast speed. Bump. Caw. Caw. Click. After the white line and the ice phoenix collided, they were in a stalemate for a while, and the white line was directly knocked away by the ice phoenix, and the ice phoenix continued to fly down towards Doflamingo. Seeing this scene, Doflamingo immediately gave up resistance, closed his eyes and waited quietly for the arrival of death. After the huge ice phoenix devoured Doflamingo mercilessly, it continued to fall towards the ground. Chapter 233. Send Doflamingo to the west. Boom. Rumbling. The ice phoenix collided viciously with the ground. It was as if an earthquake had occurred on the ground. The houses within 100 meters above the ground were turned upside down. The dust covered the area within 100 meters, making it impossible to see clearly with the naked eye. The situation inside. When all the dust dispersed, a long and big deep pit appeared on the ground. Doflamingo lay in the deep pit covered in blood, with his eyes closed and motionless. Pat. Acedus finally landed on the ground, walked slowly towards Doflamingo, and came to Doflamingo's side. Bump. Acedus kicked Doflamingo flying, and landed on the street outside the pit, and she jumped up after him. How? Is this guy dead? Moran also hovered in midair and leaned over, and asked after reaching Acedus' side. When Acedus heard Moran's question, he replied without turning his head, "Death is not dead, but it's the same as being dead." At this time, the birdcage covering the entire De Rosa kingdom, with Doflamingo's coma, the lines are slowly disappearing without a trace from top to bottom, as if it never appeared. Moran looked at the inhuman Doflamingo who had been chopped off, glanced at Acedus, and asked with a strange face, "Did Acedus offend you somewhere?" Acedus replied without knowing it, "He didn't offend me." As soon as she finished speaking, she recalled, glared at Moran and said, "Being kind to the enemy is cruel to yourself, haven't you heard that? Have you ever said that?" Yes, what you said is right. Moran, who had been seen through his mind, touched his nose in embarrassment and quickly agreed. As expected, Acedus is still the Acedus Admiral army, only when facing him, she will show the side of a little woman. When facing the enemy, she is still the fearsome Acedus Admiral army. When Acedus saw Moran's reaction, he showed a little expression of understanding, and then said, "He has been beaten unconscious. Whether you want to keep him or not is up to you to decide." Moran watched Doflamingo fall into an ideological struggle. It was good to keep Doflamingo, but there were also many disadvantages, so he immediately became entangled. He now has two options. The first is to keep Doflamingo, and then let Luo take out his heart to control Doflamingo. Needless to say, Doflamingo's ability to make money, as long as this guy is under control, he can have as much money as he wants in the future. But this guy is not like the kind of person who can be subordinated to others. Doflamingo will definitely try his best to get rid of his control. Although Moran is not afraid of his small tricks, he is afraid of trouble. Moreover, several cadres of the Don Quixote family have already lost their breath within the range of his observation haki, and they must have been killed by his people. The first option will not work, otherwise he will definitely be in trouble later, so let's use the second option. Moran thought of this and said directly to Acedus, "This guy is doing us more harm than good, so let him die." If the cadres of the Don Quixote family hadn't suffered casualties, Moran might really have kept this guy to help him make money, but since he's already immortal, let's just kill him. Although Luo's ability can control the heart, he can't control other people's thoughts, so it's better for this guy to die. After receiving the order, Acedus came directly to Doflamingo's side, raised the knife in his hand and pointed it at the heart, and stabbed it wolf-like. Puff. Doflamingo was stabbed into the heart by a long knife, and he woke up immediately from the pain. He opened his eyes and saw the long knife in his chest, but he couldn't speak a word when he opened his eyes. His eyes also lost their color. Doflamingo's eyes widened and his mouth opened wide, with a look of reluctance to die. I guess he would never have imagined that he would die on his own territory. Moran. Let's look elsewhere. Acedus. Okay. Next, Moran took Acedus and wandered around the entire De Rosa kingdom. People in other places were almost done fighting, and they didn't need their help, so he took his sister to go shopping. After walking a certain distance, Acedus, who noticed something was wrong, looked at Moran in front and asked, "Moran, why don't we help others?" At this time, Moran did not take her to the direction of other people's battlefields, but took her on the deserted streets, wandering around, with no intention of helping at all. Moran asked without turning his head, "Others don't want us to help at all, what can we do when we go to other people's battlefields?" Acedus thought about it and thought it made sense. Now the battle with the others is probably almost over. It doesn't matter whether they go or not, why not go shopping here? Acedus, who wanted to understand this, asked again, "If we don't help, where are we going now?" Moran didn't hide anything, and explained directly, "Doflamingo is so rich in business, of course I'm going to visit his palace." Acedus showed an expression of sudden realization. She thought Moran was just shopping, but she wanted to go to Doflamingo's palace to change money. Search. Pat. A figure suddenly jumped down from the roof not far away, Nonuo Zhou, and landed in front of Moran and Acedus, blocking their way to the bottom. A person jumped out suddenly, startling Moran, and after seeing the person clearly, he said angrily, "Don't you know that people who scare people can scare people to death?" Moran saw the little girl in his arms, and asked again, "You didn't kill her, did you?" Uchiha Itachi was speechless. He just came back from the mission and was kicked out. Who did he provoke? Uchiha Itachi thought so, but explained, "She's just unconscious, how could I kill her without your order?" Moran clenched his fists when he saw that he was unconscious, and his little face was covered with sugar filled with fear. He asked suspiciously, "You were so frightened even when you were unconscious. What did you do to her?" Chapter 234. Arriving at the King's Heights again. Both Moran and Acedus looked at Uchiha Itachi with a strange look, showing that you were this kind of person, and the words, "so you are pervert," were almost written on their faces. There is no way that with this pitiful appearance of Granos, it is hard not to make others think wrong. Moreover, it is still in this coma state, and everything a person does after coma is done by instinct, so Moran and Acedus all I want to be crooked. Uchiha Itachi saw the eyes of Moran and Acedus, his face gradually darkened, and he explained angrily, "She became like this because of my Tsukuyomi, and you didn't ask me to make her faint. What did these two guys take him for, huh? Why didn't he realize before that these two guys' thoughts were so dirty?" Uchiha Itachi said secretly in his heart. After Moran knew that his thoughts were wrong, he touched his nose in embarrassment, and directly changed the subject. "Then what? She will leave it to you to watch, we still have things to deal with, so let's go first what?" After Moran finished speaking, he pulled Acedus and walked towards the direction of King's Highland. The two walked very fast, as if there was a scourge behind them. Uchiha Itachi was stunned by Moran's godly manipulation of Lei's outer Jalanan. When he came back to his senses, Moran had already pulled Acedus away. Uchiha Itachi stayed where he was for a while, not knowing where he was going for a while, and having nowhere to go, he directly chased in the direction Moran was walking. At this time, there were only two cadres in the inner palace of King's Heights, Monet and Buffalo. They went to find the sugar and returned to King's Heights, but when they returned here, they found that there was no one there. Looking at the empty highland, Buffalo asked Monet, "The sugar is not found, and the other cadres are not here, what should we do?" Because Monet couldn't find his sister Granu, he just stood aside with an ugly face, and didn't intend to answer him at all. 10 minutes later, Moran brought Acedus to the top of the King's Heights, and Uchiha Itachi behind him also chased him with sugar in his arms. Moran saw Uchiha Itachi chasing after him, and said directly to him, "Itachi, if you are free, please inform the others, and come to the Highland of the Lord to meet up after the fight." Uchiha Itachi looked at Granos in his arms and asked, "Then what should she do?" Moran glanced at Acedus and said, "Just give the sugar to Acedus, and then you can go about your business." Uchiha Itachi had no objection when he heard the words, and directly handed the sugar to Acedus, thinking in his heart, he finally got rid of this little ancestor. After Uchiha Itachi handed the sugar to Acedus, he turned around and left here, and disappeared without a trace after a few flashes. Acedus looked at Granu, who was only 5 or 6 years old in his arms, and asked Moran very curiously, "Is Suan Lan really in her 20s? No matter how she looked at Granos, she looked 5 or 6 years old. It was hard to imagine a person in his 20s with a body of 5 or 6 years old. Moran saw Acedus' little expression of disbelief, and he didn't explain, but said directly, "When she wakes up, you can ask her yourself and you will know." After Moran finished speaking, he walked to the interior of King's Highland. He didn't hear this kind of thing with his own ears. No matter how much he said, Acedus would not believe it. "Hey, Moran, wait for me." Acedus, who was behind him, saw Moran walking away, and hurriedly followed Moran's footsteps. Da da da, da da da. Buffalo, who was inside the highland, heard footsteps approaching, and quickly reminded, "Someone Monet has come in." Hearing this, Monet raised his head and looked towards the entrance. The footsteps were getting closer, and both of them became nervous, because they didn't know whether it would be the enemy or other cadre members of their Don Quixote family who came in. After a while, they saw 2 people walking in. No, it was 3 people, one was hugged by a woman, and they all knew these 2 people, they were Dragon King Moran of Wanjian Pirates and Ice Queen Acedus. After seeing the person who came in clearly, the hearts of both of them were cold and cold. It seems that both of them are going to confess here today. Moran was not surprised to see Monet and Buffalo, because he already knew that the 2 men were here and asked directly, "Can you take me to the money bank of your Don Quixote family? Ask for flowers." Buffalo stepped forward tremblingly, and refused in a cold sweat. "How could it be possible to take you to the money bank? I tell you, don't even think about it." Boom. Moran quickly disappeared in place, and was stepped out of a deep pit in place, and his men had already arrived in front of Buffalo in an instant, raised their 1.2-meter long legs and swept over. Quote exclamation mark quote. Boom. Boom. Buffalo was directly swept away and hit a wall not far away, and his whole body fell into the wall, the kind that he couldn't even buckle down. Buffalo. Monet saw Buffalo who was blown out, and shouted anxiously, just about to go in to help. 0. Acedus appeared in front of her in an instant, blocked her way, and said with a smile, "You'd better stay where you are obediently, otherwise I can't guarantee that I won't kill you first. Get out of the way, B************* D. Monet directly turned on elementalization, and a burst of snowflakes began to float around. The snowflakes gradually increased and the entire palace was filled with white snow, as if it had just snowed. That's granulated sugar. At this time, Monet finally noticed the sugar in Acedus' arms after Acedus approached. She couldn't see it clearly because of the distance, but now she finally sees it clearly. Monet breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that the sugar was safe, and then he secretly became anxious. Although the sugar was fine, it fell into the hands of the enemy. After Monet forced himself to calm down, he asked, "You guys from the Wanjian Pirates, what are you doing here?" After a pause, he added, "If you have any requests, just ask, as long as it's not too much, I can cooperate with you." After Monet finished speaking, in order to make Moran believe what she said, he also put away the heavy snow that filled the palace. Slowly the snow became less and less, and the snow in the palace disappeared without a trace after a while. Chapter 235. The Golden Mountain and Silver Mountain in front of Chian Curry. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. More. 112. 28. 37. Monet's current thinking is to save Granu and say that in her heart, her sister's safety is above all else, and other things have to be sidelined. But she can't tell her purpose, and she can't let Moran and others know that Granos is her sister, otherwise it will be extremely difficult for her to successfully rescue Granos. However, what Monet didn't know was that Moran probably knew more about their Don Quixote family than she did as a cadre. She and Granos were sisters, and Moran was also clear about it. Moran saw that Monet had been peeking at Granu, and immediately knew what she was worried about, but she didn't expose her small thoughts, as long as she could take him to the money bank. Moran is not afraid of her making small moves, anyway, it's only Monet alone, so forgive her for not being able to make any waves. Thinking of this, Moran said directly, there is no requirement, I have made it very clear just now, as long as you can take me to the money bank. After thinking for a while, Monet said, I can take 21 you to the money bank, but after I take you to the money bank, you have to put the sugar. If you don't agree, I won't take you there. Moran glanced at her, and said with a blank expression, we can find the money bank by ourselves, at most it's a waste of a moment, and you have the right to bargain with me now. Moran paused for a moment and then said with a smile, but if you are willing to cooperate, maybe I will let her go as soon as I am happy. She sneaked another glance at Granu, although she didn't believe what Moran said, but she really didn't have the right to bargain now, so she could only take them there first, let's figure out a way to save Granu later. After thinking it over, Monet turned around and said, come with me. Let's follow up and have a look. Moran said to Acedus, and followed Monet's footsteps first, and walked into the depths of the palace, and Acedus behind him quickly followed. The interior of King's Highland has been completely hollowed out. From the outside, it was thought to be just a highland, but only after entering the interior did I realize that there are all layers of stairs and palaces inside. Moran Kamakochi only split the uppermost palace, but the inner palace did not suffer any loss, it is still the same as it was before. Acedus looked at Monet who was leading the way in front, and whispered in Moran's ear, Moran, why do I feel that she has another song in mind when she takes us to the money bank? Moran also leaned over and whispered in his ear, get rid of the feeling, she took us to the money bank for a purpose. Acedus nodded thoughtfully, she didn't ask any more questions, and followed Moran quietly with her sugar in her arms. Not long after, Monet brought Moran and Acedus to a gate, stopped and turned around and said, this is the money bank of our Don Quixote family. I have already brought you here. Can you please come here first? Let our cadres go. She didn't ask Moran to release her sister, but asked Moran to release the cadres of their Don Quixote family. She was afraid that Moran would know her relationship with Granos and let her fall into a passive state. However, Moran already knew the relationship between the two sisters, so how could she be fooled by her? Although it didn't affect him whether he put sugar or not, he just didn't want Mozan to succeed. He just likes to see people itching their teeth when they hate him, but they act like they can't do anything about him, hey. I'm just playing, hee hee. Thinking of this, Mo had to say directly, when did I promise you that I would let her go? Monet asked with an ugly face, what exactly do you want to put sugar in? Moran didn't answer her question, but urged directly, stop talking so much nonsense, and open the door of the money bank for me. A-hole. Monet looked at Moran and cursed, then obediently walked to the gate, clicked on the gate, and finally opened the gate of the money bank. Guggy. When the door of the money bank was slowly pushed open, what fell into Moran's eyes was a piece of gold, all kinds of treasures made of gold, and boxes of Baileys piled up like mountains, and the whole money bank was covered with gold and silver. Fill up. Doflamingo is indeed a connoisseur of making war fortunes. There is so much money here alone, and this is not counting the money this guy has in other places. You must know that Doflamingo's business is spread all over the world, and his industries are found in the Four Seas, the Grand Line, and the New World. However, Moran probably won't be able to get these, because he doesn't want to inherit these industries from Doflamingo. He still likes to sail on the sea, and doing business is not suitable for people like him. Still hee hee. Moran looked at the gold and silver mountains, and did not put them away immediately, but asked Monet, your Don Quixote family's business is all over the world. Is it just this little money? In order to save his sister, Monet could only explain patiently, it's true that our Don Quixote family has business all over the world, but our money is scattered all over the world, so there are so few here. Moran looked at Monet with a calm face, and could only call him a good guy. It seems that the money is not too much in the eyes of the Don Quixote family, and they have to think about how to gather the money. Thinking of this, Moran secretly sighed. It seems that the decision to let Uchiha Itachi catch alive is indeed right. Moran went in and put away all the money on the curry, looked at Monet and asked straight to the point, is this little loli your sister? Monet was still shocked by the way Moran collected the money. Just waving his hand, the gold and silver mountains disappeared without a trace, as if the money had never existed. Hearing Moran say that Granos is her sister, Monet immediately came back to his senses, and asked directly, how did you know that? However, she regretted it just after asking, and she almost cried because of her stupidity. Isn't asking this kind of question a disguised admission that Granos is her sister? Seeing her regretful face, Moran said directly, I know every member and cadre of your Don Quixote family very well, so you don't need to show this expression, even if you don't admit it, I know she is your sister. Chapter 236. Pursuing Doflamingo's property. Monet stared at the man in front of her with wide eyes. She thought that Moda just knew that Granos was a cadre from the toys that turned back into humans just now. It seems that this guy knows more than those who were turned into toys. This news really scared her a bit. You must know that apart from the cadres of the Don Quixote family, even the Marine, GMJ, World ZF, and New World 4 major powers don't know about the existence of the sugar, because people who have seen the sugar are not to be turned into a toy is to be disposed of by them. After Monet staged a Sichuan opera to change his face, he asked with a puzzled face, "No one knows about my relationship with Granos except the cadres. How do you know?" A smirk flashed across Moran's face, and he started talking nonsense. Of course Doflamingo told me all the information about your Don Quixote family, in order to let me let him go, but unfortunately he is still dead. What? When Monet heard the news, he widened his eyes and opened his mouth in shock, showing an expression of disbelief. Boom. Immediately afterwards, she thought that there was no need for Moran to lie to her. After thinking about it, she seemed to have lost all strength in her body. She sat on the ground with 47's buttocks, with a look of despair on her face, and said to herself, "The young master has already died." Moran originally wanted to sow discord between them, saying that Doflamingo sold you all, but looking at the current situation, it seems to have failed. Monet didn't seem to believe what he said at all. Her focus was only on the news of Doflamingo's death, and she chose to ignore the fact that Doflamingo had sold them out. Anyway, he didn't expect to be able to successfully sow discord. Thinking of this, Monet looked at Monet sitting on the ground with a lost soul and said, "It's too early for you to be sad now. Don't forget that you are also a mud Buddha crossing the river now, and you can't protect yourself." After Monet came back to his senses, he raised his head and looked at Moran and asked, "You haven't killed me yet, so there must be something you want me to do, right? Don't beat around the bush. Just say it." Moran said, "Members of your Don Quixote family, now almost only you and Granos and one or two other cadres are still alive. If you don't want to die, just do one thing for me, CBCC, you just need to help me if you do one thing. How about I release you and the two sisters, Sugar?" Doflamingo's property here is probably not even 20%, and most of it is scattered around the world. If he doesn't find a way to collect it, Moran will feel sorry for himself. When he was thinking about this just now, he saw Monet and Granos, and suddenly an idea popped up, that is to let Monet, a member of the Don Quixote family, gather all the money scattered around the world, so that Doflamingo's money will it's all his. Monet stared at Moran for a long time, and then said, "I won't believe your empty words, unless you release the sugar first, I can stay as a hostage for you." Moran leaned close to Monet, stared into her eyes and said, "You have to remember that you are my prisoner now, you have no qualifications to negotiate terms with me, if you want to save someone, you have to do what I say, or you will be exempted. Talk. Acedus, let's go." Moran turned around and walked directly outside, saying as he walked, "I will stay on this island for a while, come to me after you think it over." The little lowly, Granu, was still in his hands. Before Monet rescued Granu, Moran was not at all worried that she would run away secretly. As for letting go of the two cadres, Monet and Granos, whether they will come to him for revenge in the future, he is not afraid of their revenge at all, and as long as they are not mentally ill, they will not come to him for revenge, because the difference in strength is too great. What? Acedus came to Moran's side in a few steps, and asked curiously, "What do you want her to do, Moran?" Moran didn't hide anything, and explained to Acedus, "Most of their Don Quixote family's property is scattered around the world, and we don't know what property they have, so we can only let her, a member of the Don Quixote family, go get all the property from all over the world, so we just have to wait to collect the money." Acedus nodded thoughtfully, but as she thought about it, this kind of thing can't be done in a short time, so wouldn't they have to stay with Doris Rosa for a long time? Thinking of Acedus here, he asked cautiously, "This kind of thing like Moran can't be done in a short period of time. Are we going to stay here for a long time?" She doesn't want to stay here for too long, because the people here are too weak, there is not even one who can fight, and she doesn't want to stay here. Moran looked at the cautious Acedus, how could he not know her careful thoughts, so he comforted, "I'm going to stay here for a while, but you have other tasks. At that time, you need to go to sea to do tasks." Quote. Moran also knows that it is really unrealistic for her to stay here quietly with a fighting madman like her, so he has long thought about letting her go to sea by herself. Acedus asked with a face full of disbelief, "Moran, do you mean to let me go to sea to do the mission by myself?" She also knows that Moran has been reluctant to part with her, so although she is eager to fight, but after she asked Moran last time why he didn't let her take over the land, she didn't mention the matter of going to sea again. She didn't expect that happiness came like this suddenly. Seeing the ecstatic Acedus, Moran asked wonderingly, "Acedus is going to sea for a mission this time, but he will be going for a long time. Are you so happy to leave me?" Because of his guilty conscience, Acedus did not dare to look at Moran with evasive eyes. He lowered his head and argued, "I'm not happy, I just can't bear to leave you." Seeing Acedus' guilty look, Moran wanted to tease her, so he said, "Since you are so reluctant to leave me, then I will send someone else to do this task." "Don't want. Moran, I was wrong, please don't change people." Acedus was so scared that he apologized and begged for mercy when he heard this. Leaning up to Moran, he acted coquettishly, if it wasn't for the sugar in his arms, Moran would probably have crawled on top of him with this woman. Chapter 237. Instant Breakthrough System. Moran looked at Acedus who acted like a baby because he was anxious, and his face flickered. It was the first time she saw Acedus who acted like a baby, so she had to ask for some benefits. Thinking of this, Moran said with a smile. I don't have to change if I want to, it depends on your performance. Acedus blushed slightly when he heard this, and said shyly, I've agreed to all the requests you made before, right? There was an ecstatic expression on Moran's face, but he still said in a desperate manner, you said this, I didn't mean to force you. Yes, it's okay if I said it myself. Acedus could only agree helplessly when he saw Moran's face-saving look. After Moran got the answer he wanted, he happily walked in front of 980, looking forward to the coming of night, and thought in his heart, it would be great if he had the ability to speed up time. The system mall has the ability to accelerate time, and it only needs 5 billion Baileys. May I ask the host, do you want to buy it? Moran just thought that it would be great if he had the time acceleration ability, but the system jumped out and recommended a time acceleration ability to him. The system opens the personal page. Summoning lottery system. Host. Alphad. Moran. Identity. Captain of Wanjian Pirates. Age. 21. Abilities. Psychic ability, Thunder Fruit ability. Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, Rinnegan, Chakra, Wood Style. Advanced Observation Hockey. 7,508 thousandths. Advanced Armament Hockey. 7,508 thousandths. Advanced Conqueror's Hockey. 7,608 thousandths. Advanced Physical Skills. 8,008 thousandths. Marine 6 Styles. Moonwalk, Drama 7,800D. Great Swordsman. 7,508 thousandths. Strength. Admiral Advanced. Pele. 165 billion 30 million. The last time I summoned Fubuki and improved her strength, I used more than 20 billion Baileys, and it has fallen below 100 billion. I just took away Doflamingo's money bank, and his Baileys have reached the level of 100 billion or more. Now he get rich again. The time acceleration ability you mentioned by the system, besides accelerating time, does it have other functions? There is no other effect, but to speed up time. For example, it is daytime now, and it can be accelerated directly to night, or it can be accelerated to tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. How about it? Does the host need to buy it? That's it. After listening to the introduction of the system, Moran showed a disdainful expression. Sharingan only needs 2 billion berries, but this one wants 5 billion berries. He thought how powerful this ability is. Host, you need to know that the ability to control time is much more expensive than ordinary abilities. Are you sure you don't need to buy it? Yes, I know that time ability is expensive, but the ability is too single, so it's useless for me to buy it. The system explained it for a long time, but Moran was still unmoved. If time can be reversed and time acceleration can be added, it's almost the same. Time acceleration alone is useful for birds. If you don't like the ability of host, there are still many abilities in the system store. Do you want to buy it? Moran didn't answer the system's words, but asked instead, the system, did you see that string of numbers? System. See what happened. There was a smirk on Moran's face, and he said very much, I have money, but I just don't use it, so I ask you if you are angry. Are you angry? Moran thought that the system would jump out and scold him, but after a long time there was no movement, and he thought to himself, the system must be mad, right? You are the one who is mad, and your whole family is mad. Hearing the system jumped out to scold him, Moran was not angry. If he was really angry, he would have nowhere to cry. Thinking about it, Moran also felt that what he had done recently was indeed a bit unethical, so he comforted him. I will ask you to spend a lot of money when the system is late, so don't be angry. Humph. The system just snorted and didn't speak. It feels helpless when it encounters this kind of host. Every day it looks at the string of numbers and feels very uncomfortable. It just wants to upgrade a level. What's wrong with it? Moran did not upgrade the system directly, and he was also afraid that once the system was upgraded, the function of summoning characters would be gone, so he planned to not buy anything in the mall other than summoning characters. Anyway, I don't need so much ability. When he doesn't need to summon characters for anything, he is upgrading the system, and he will be able to summon a few more characters. Moran, I'm back. Did you miss me? Moran was still thinking about the system, when a voice suddenly came from the sky. He raised his head to look at the sky in doubt, only to see a small black spot in the sky falling rapidly towards him. This crazy girl. After a while, when the little black dot approached, Moran saw that the speed of the tornado was not slowing down, and it was coming straight towards him, and he started cursing directly. Although Moran was cursing, he didn't run away, otherwise the tornado would hit the ground, so he could only stay where he was, ready to catch the crazy girl. Boom. Ouch. Long Wan rubbed his head with tears in his eyes. After coming over for a while, he looked around and said to himself, strange. Where did Moran go? I saw him here just now. Moran looked at the tornado sitting on him, and asked with a dark face, you didn't notice the tornado, is there anything wrong with you? Before Tornado could react, he said with emotion, that's right. It doesn't hurt when I hit the ground, it's amazing. Moran's face was black, and 3.0 said angrily, of course you won't feel pain when you hit me, so get off me. Hearing Moran's voice again, Tornado finally came to his senses this time, and slowly lowered his head. When he saw Moran with a dark face under him, he apologized awkwardly. I'm sorry, Moran, I didn't mean it. Don't be angry, okay? Moran said angrily. That's right, you didn't do it on purpose, you just did it on purpose, don't talk so much nonsense, come down for me quickly. Moran would not believe her nonsense. Every time the tornado came back, he would bump into his arms, almost forming a habit. Fortunately, it just bumped into his arms before, but this time it hit him directly on the ground. It can no longer be called a bump, it should be called a smash. Chapter 238. The Liku clan arrives at the King's Heights. Moran said that this habit is too much for him, so next time the tornado hits him like this, just let her hit those hard floors. I'm sorry, I know I was wrong, Moran, just forgive him once. Long Wan apologized and begged for forgiveness with a pitiful look. But her person is still sitting on Moran's body. The meaning of the tornado is obvious. I will not come down until you forgive me. Although Moran didn't believe her nonsense, but in order to let her come down, he could only agree with him. Okay, I will forgive you this time, come down for me quickly. I know, guaranteed not to be an example. Tornado was forgiven by Moran, and he immediately smiled, and then green energy burst out from his body, and the whole person began to levitate slowly. Regarding the promise made by the tornado, Moran will not believe a word. It is not that she has never made a promise before, but it is still like this now. After just making the promise, I think this little girl can turn her head and forget about it completely. Bar. After seeing Moran standing up, Long Wan came forward and said, Moran, I have already dealt with all the cadres of the Don Quixote family who wanted to escape, and none of them escaped. After Long Wan finished speaking, he showed a smug expression, as if there were a few big characters written on his face, come and praise me. Oh, after Moran replied in a very flat tone with a blank face, there was no more to say, and he directly chose to ignore Tornado's small expression, as if he couldn't see her expression. Oh, hearing Moran's calm tone, Long Wan's face gradually darkened, and he asked, I've worked so hard for a long time, and you just let it be over with an O. Moran still asked blankly, what else do you want from me? Do you want me to set off fireworks and then praise you? Pipe question mark quote. You. Long Wan's face was flushed red, and he couldn't say a word. After slowly regaining his strength, he rushed towards Moran with all his teeth and claws, and roared angrily, Stinky Moran, I want to fight you. The tornado rushed over and scratched. After scratching for a while, it felt that it was not enough to relieve the anger, so it opened its small mouth and bit Moran's arm. What, Tornado, are you a dog? Hurry up and let me go. Immediately, there was a heart-piercing scream in the whole King's Highland, and it spread far, far away, even the people below the town heard the scream. Hey, did you hear the screams? I heard that too. Me too. The sound should come from the King's Heights, but why is there a sound from above? That's right, isn't the headquarters of the Don Quixote family above the King's Heights? Could it be that there are strong people fighting on it? I think the group that fought Doflamingo on the island today are fighting the Don Quixote family on the King's Heights. There should be a sound when fighting, but we only heard the screams, not the sound of fighting. You're right, it's really strange. The civilians on the streets of the town below the King's Heights heard the screams from above, and they all guessed. Some people thought that there were people fighting above, but some people didn't think so, because there were only screams from above, and there was no sound of battles or explosions. Every guess had just been uttered, and was quickly overturned, and there were many discussions, but no one could explain why. At this time, there were 4 people on the street, 2 men and 2 women, who were slowly rushing towards the highland of the king. They were King Liku, his daughter Violet, son-in-law Cyrus, and granddaughter Rebecca. After Cyrus took Rebecca to find King Liku and explained the situation, they rushed over to King's Highland as a whole, and happened to meet Violet on the way, and she came with her. King Liku heard the scream just now, and asked worriedly with a sad face, can Cyrus and the others really defeat Doflamingo? Cyrus' expression was not good at this time, because he had recognized Moran's voice when he heard the scream just now. Although it was far away, it was normal that others couldn't hear it, but he recognized it. It was Moran's voice. Although Cyrus was worried about Moran's problems, he still comforted him. The person who was fighting Doflamingo at this time is one of the 5 emperors of the New World, the Dragon Emperor Moran, and all the members of his 10,000 swords pirates are here. It shouldn't be impossible to defeat a Doflamingo. Rebecca echoed with a small expression of admiration. That big brother is very powerful, he will definitely be able to defeat Doflamingo. When Cyrus saw Rebecca who admired Moran, although he felt sour in his heart, he couldn't stop him, and he couldn't say anything about Rebecca. Hearing Rebecca's words, King Liku no longer had a sad face, but showed a smile, hugged Rebecca and asked with a smile. Then Rebecca, tell Grandpa, that big brother how powerful is it? That's right, anyway, it's the very, very powerful kind. Rebecca showed a look of admiration, but she couldn't tell why, and she just didn't know how to describe son for a long time. Ha 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 hiccup. A few people saw Rebecca's cute gestures and dancing, but they didn't know how to describe it, so they all burst into laughter. After a few people played around for a while, Zhou Li's good Lu Shi asked a little worried. If King Liku really defeats Doflamingo, the Dragon Emperor Moran, you will only be able to manage this kingdom in the future, not is it really okay to belong to the Riku clan? Riku Akoku stopped in his tracks, looked at Cyrus and said seriously, Cyrus, you must know that it is already a great favor for them to continue to manage this kingdom for our Riku family, and I don't want to hear it again. Do you understand this question? Then he added, and as long as the citizens of De Res Rosa can live a good life, it doesn't matter who the kingdom belongs to, isn't it? Violet also echoed. Brother-in-law, you may not know much about our Liku clan. In fact, we don't have that much desire for power. What we care about is the well-being of the people. Chapter 239. Moran and Tornado's battle of wisdom and bravery. Cyrus was just a beggar before, and after marrying the princess of the kingdom of Dariusrosa, he didn't spend much time in the palace, so he really didn't know much about the royal family of Liku. Cyrus nodded thoughtfully. King Liku and Violet had already spoken so clearly, so he didn't say anything more. At this time, the four of them had come to the bottom of the king's highland. King Liku raised his head and looked at the palace where he had lived for half his life. Seeing King Liku standing still, Violet turned around and asked, "Father, why don't you leave? Aren't we going to the highland of the king?" When King Liku heard Violet's words, he gradually came back to his senses and said with emotion, "Since Doflamingo came here, we have left here. I didn't expect that we would set foot on the king's highland again one day." After standing there for a long time, King Liku said, "I don't know what's going on with the battle above, let's go up and have a look." Cyrus followed King Liku's footsteps and guessed, "Since we came here, apart from the screams we heard just now, there have been no more fights or explosions, so I think the battle should be over." Rebecca interjected impatiently, "Whether the battle is over or not, don't we know if we go up and see? Da. Let's hurry up." After Rebecca finished speaking, she took the lead and ran to the top of the king's heights. Cyrus and the others could only shake their heads helplessly and quickly followed. Cyrus looked at Rebecca who was running ahead, and complained helplessly, "Since Rebecca has been in contact with Dragon Emperor Moran a few times, it seems that she has released her nature, and her whole person has become lively and active. Everything you do now is in a hurry." King Liku showed a doting smile when he heard this, and said with emotion, "There is nothing wrong with children being lively and active. On the contrary, I like such a lively and active granddaughter." King Liku looked at Rebecca in front, as if seeing the shadow of his daughter, sighed and said, "It's a pity that her mother passed away early, otherwise she might be happier than now." Cyrus lowered his head dejectedly when he heard this, and Violet's eyes also darkened. What King Liku was talking about was Rebecca's mother, Dariusrosa, another kilometer from the main country. None of them took up this heavy topic, and the three of them were not talking for a while, and none of them wanted to bring up this sad matter. Then there were only the sound of footsteps, and the voice of Rebecca, an innocent girl who didn't know anything, urging them ahead. "Rebecca. Grandpa, hurry up. They can't fly and can't fly up directly like Moran, so they can only go up by climbing the stairs." Rebecca is chattering in front, like an elf leading the way. At this time, above the highland of the king, there is a large open-air highland, not far from the palace that was split in half by Moran, and Moran was still fighting with the tornado. Moran was staring at the tornado, and Moran pinched the tornado's mouth with one hand, causing the tornado's mouth to close, babbling, "Wipe, block the mud, give. Whoa, Fang, guy." Moran held back his smile, pretended to give her a vicious look and asked, "Do you still dare to bite me in the future?" Long Wan showed a pitiful little expression, and begged for mercy, "The wild cloth planted in the bar is dry, let's eat it in the clay wine square pot." Moran doesn't really hurt, it's just the stinky biting habit of Tornado, she must get rid of it, otherwise he will definitely be bitten again in the future, so this scene happened. After Moran let go of her mouth, he said directly, "If you bite me again, Tornado, you will be a puppy." Humph. Long Wan rubbed his sour mouth, gave Moran a vicious look, then turned around angrily, leaving only the back of Moran's head. Acedus saw that the two finally stopped fighting, so he came to Moran's side and asked, "Moran, where do we want me to go next?" They have stayed here for a long time, mainly because Moran and Tornado have been pinching each other, they immediately pinch each other after 2 steps, and they immediately pinch after 2 steps, they have been lingering around here repeatedly. Asking for flowers. Moran took out a recliner and lay on it directly, squinting his eyes and replied, "We are not going anywhere here, I have asked Uchiha Itachi to inform other people, let them meet at King's Highland, so there is no need to go anywhere." Quote. Hearing this, Acedus didn't ask any more questions, just found a place nearby and sat down, quietly waiting for the arrival of the others. Da. Not long after Moran lay down, there was a sound of footsteps coming from the direction of the stairs, slowly approaching here. Except for Moran who knew who was coming and didn't move, everyone else looked towards the stairs and saw 2 men and 2 women walking out of the stairs. It was none other than King Riku and Cyrus who came up the stairs. Rebecca took the lead and walked towards Moran. After the 4 of them arrived not far from Moran, they looked around and did not see any members of the Don Quixote family. They knew the result of the battle without asking them, because only the victorious side could sit in peace. Here. Cyrus came to Moran's side and said, "My Lord Dragon King, I have brought you King Li Kei, if you have any orders, just say it." Moran opened his eyes and glanced at the 4 people, then closed his eyes again and said, "I have almost dealt with the members of the Don Quixote family, Doflamingo is also dead, and the current Dariusrosa kingdom has just experienced the flames of war, you guys go and settle down those civilians." After a pause, he added, "In the future, the Dariusrosa kingdom will be managed by your Liku family. I will not interfere with your management, but if you do not manage well, I will replace you at any time. The specific date will be later. I will send someone to talk to you, now you go to deal with the civilians first." Several people were secretly shocked. The Don Quixote family, which was like a mountain to them, had been wiped out by Moran in just half a day. Chapter 240. A tornado like a kitten. Seeing that Moran finished speaking, King Liku took 2 steps forward and said respectfully, "Master Dragon Emperor, I am King Liku. Don't worry about the affairs of the Dariusrosa kingdom. I will definitely manage the Dariusrosa kingdom well." Moran glanced at King Liku, and said casually, managing a kingdom well is not based on words, but on achievements. I look forward to your performance. King Liku showed a serious expression, and assured him, Lord Dragon Emperor, please rest assured that if you fail to achieve results, I will automatically abdicate to let you be worthy, and I will definitely not make it difficult for you. Moran took a deep look at him. He just wanted King Riku's words, because he most wanted Rebecca to be in charge of the kingdom, not this bad old man, but now Rebecca is still young, the only way is to let this bad old man manage it first. Moran thought of this and didn't want to say any more, so he said in a rushing tone, if there is no problem, you can deal with those houses that were injured and destroyed due to the aftermath of the war. 21 inches. King Liku heard what Moran meant, so he said goodbye, Master Dragon Emperor, then we will go to settle down the citizens first, and we will not disturb your rest. Seeing that Moran didn't speak anymore, King Liku turned around and led them back. He was not dissatisfied with Moran's arrogance. After all, Moran will be their immediate boss in the future. It's up to Moran. Grandpa, let me go, I haven't talked to the big brother yet. Rebecca was dragged towards the stairs by King Liku at this time, and she kept protesting to King Liku. King Liku didn't intend to let go of his hand, and pulled her to continue walking towards the stairs, persuading her as he walked, Rebecca, don't be willful, Lord Dragon King has just experienced a battle, and he is very tired now, don't bother him to rest, there are still many opportunities for you to meet in the future, don't care about this moment. Okay. Rebecca showed a pitiful little expression, but she didn't continue to make trouble, but quietly followed King Liku. Seeing Rebecca's pitiful little expression, King Liku couldn't bear to comfort him. Rebecca will bring you to find Lord Dragon King after Grandpa finishes his work, okay. Rebecca smiled instantly and said, Grandpa, you said this, you can't go back on your word. With a doting smile on King Liku's face, he rubbed her little head and promised, don't worry, Grandpa won't go back on his word. I'll bring you here to find Lord Dragon Emperor when I'm done. Grandpa, let's deal with the affairs of the people. After Rebecca finished speaking, she took the lead and ran ahead, urging King Liku and others to come. When Cyrus saw that Rebecca was thinking about Moran, leaving his old father behind him, he immediately felt a sour feeling in his heart. With a dark face, Cyrus sighed secretly in his heart. This is just a few times meeting. Rebecca is talking about Moran now, she is really a girl. The next few people were not talking. Looking at Rebecca who was bouncing and running ahead, they all showed a happy smile and walked down the stairs. Moran watched several people disappear at the stairs, then turned his head and continued to bask in the sun with his eyes squinted, waiting for the rest of the pirates to come back. Not long after Moran closed his eyes, he suddenly felt his body sinking. Nguyen opened his eyes and glanced at his body, and found that it was a tornado lying in his arms like a kitten again. Tornado likes to lie in his arms and rest like a kitten. This is not once or twice, but often. He has no choice but to be helpless. As time goes by, Moran no longer cares about her. Da. I don't know how long it took Moran to hear the footsteps approaching, and opened his eyes to look in the direction of the footsteps, and found that Fubuki and Luo came back together, and Luo was still holding a person in his hand, motionless and desperate. Moran looked at the two people approaching, and asked curiously, why did you two come back together, and who was the person you mentioned? After Luo walked to Moran's side, he explained, I met Fushui and I on the way back. As for this person, she is one of the cadres of the Don Quixote family, Baby 5. Boom. After Luo introduced Baby 5, he threw her directly on the ground, and then found a place to sit down and rest without saying a word. He has been running around for half a day, and he has also fought against a cadre. Although he won, he was exhausted. Moran looked at Baby 5, who was wearing a maid outfit and was covered in wounds, and asked suspiciously, is there something wrong with her when you brought her back? Fushui stepped forward shyly and explained, she was seriously injured while fighting with me, I don't know how to deal with her, so I brought her back and let you decide how to deal with her. When Moran heard this, he felt a little embarrassed for a while. He didn't know how to deal with it. It would be a pity to kill him. It's not appropriate to stay around, because Moran can't accept her character when she thinks about it. Baby 5 is like a time bomb, and no one knows when 067 will explode. After thinking for a long time, Moran said to Luo, Luo, take care of her injury first, let him stay and observe for a while, and make a decision later. I see. Although Luo is very tired now, he is very happy in his heart at this time, because his vengeance has been avenged, so now what Moran said, he will do it even if he is at home. Thinking of Baby 5's tragic fate, Moran still didn't have the heart to do it. He planned to observe for a while and said that even if he couldn't bring her with him, he could keep her here. It would be nice to be Rebecca's bodyguard. Of course, the premise is that Baby 5 is no longer in the state of being indiscriminate, otherwise Moran would not dare to arrange her next to Rebecca. If by the time he leaves here, Baby 5 is still in the current state of indiscriminate enemy and friend, Moran can only kill her or release her directly, and let her leave here by herself. Moran thought of this, and said to Acedus, after Acedus wakes up, this person will be handed over to you. Her character is a bit flawed. You can try to straighten her character. Chapter 241. The port battle begins. When Acedus heard Moran's words, he showed a wicked smile, and directly assured, no matter what character flaws she has, I can straighten her up. Moran, you can trust her to me. Moran saw Acedus smile, and immediately remembered her tormenting character, and immediately got goosebumps. But Moran didn't stop it. As long as Baby Five's personality can be changed to be like a normal person, Baby Five probably won't refuse it. Then she'll leave it to you. After Moran finished speaking, he closed his eyes again, and continued to bask in the sun with salted fish. Wang Zhigao became quiet, and no one was talking. At the port at this time, Senju Hashirama and Van Oka were sitting on the pirate ship, chatting with each other. Van Oka looked at the direction inside the island and said, "The explosion inside the island has stopped, and they probably have finished fighting." Senju Hashirama also looked towards the interior of the island, showing a regretful expression and said emotionally, "The interior of the island has indeed calmed down, what a pity, there is no chance to make a move this time." Although Senju Hashirama loves peace, he is also a militant. 593 His militancy is not to fight to the death with others, but likes to fight and learn from the strong. Van Oka looked at the regretful Senju Hashirama. He had seen this situation more than once. The combat members on the ship were all militants, and each of them was a strong group, making him a sniper. Same as amateur. A sniper of his strength would at least be a combat member if he was on someone else's ship. As a result, he was ashamed to say that he was a combat member on the Wanjian pirates. He couldn't afford to lose that person. Van Oka was thinking about something, when he inadvertently saw a pirate ship slowly approaching the port on the sea level. He quickly picked up his sniper rifle, and took a long look towards the sea. Senju Hashirama saw Van Oka's movements and guessed that there was a ship approaching. He also looked in the direction Van Oka was aiming at, and saw a small black dot slowly approaching the port, and asked directly, "Does Van Oka know whose ship it is?" After looking at it for a while, Van Oka replied with some uncertainty, "It seems to be the ship of the Don Quixote family, but isn't CBAJ Flamingo fighting with the captain on the island?" Senju Hashirama guessed. It may be a cadre of the Don Quixote family. He just came back from a mission. Van Oka also felt that it made sense, so he put down his sniper rifle and looked at Senju Hashirama and asked, "It's not impossible, should we report it to the captain?" Senju Hashirama stood up and said in a very haughty way, "It's just a few little guys, there is no need to report to Lord Moran, I can handle them all by myself." Van Oka covered his face with one hand when he heard this, and secretly complained in his heart, "I knew it would be like this." The few militants on the ship, when they saw the enemy, the first consideration was not whether they could fight or not, but the first consideration is the enemy strong enough, can let them fight to the fullest, he really knows these people too well. Senju Hashirama saw Van Oka stunned in place, and directly urged, "Van Oka, pull the boat over and don't let them land on the island." Oh, I'll sail the boat right away." Hearing what Senju Hashirama said, Van Oka finally came to his senses, and in response, he went to control the boat and approach it. At this time, on the sea level thousands of meters away, the pirate ship was slowly approaching the port, and the pirates on board were busy preparing to land on De Ris Rosa. A pirate on the observation deck saw the pirate ship approaching quickly, and hurriedly reported to a tall man on the deck who was closing his eyes and resting his mind. "There is a pirate ship in the direction of Master Pika's port, and it is quickly heading towards us. Come closer." Pika is one of the cadres of the Don Quixote family, and at this time he doesn't know everything that happened on the island of De Ris Rosa. This time he went out to do a mission and just escaped a catastrophe, but at this time he didn't know that death was slowly approaching him. Pika opened his eyes and looked at the pirates on the watchtower, and asked in a very thin voice, "Can you see if it is our Don Quixote family's ship, or another pirate group's ship?" The pirate on the observatory picked up the binoculars and glanced again. After seeing it clearly, he replied, "It's not our Don Quixote family's ship, but their pirate flag is a bit familiar, but I can't remember which pirate group it is." When Pika heard that it was not their Don Quixote family's ship, he ordered in his duck-like voice, "Since it is not our Don Quixote family's ship, if they dare to approach, just sink them." Yes, the pirates on the boat seemed to be accustomed to hearing Pika's voice. Although some people were still blushing, none of them laughed. It is estimated that everyone who laughed was dead. After the pirates on the ship got the order, they all came to the fort and got busy. There were more than a dozen forts facing up to fill the shells, and some controlled the barrels to aim in the direction of the pirate ship. Shish, shish. Cannonballs bombarded Senju Hashirama's ship one after another, like a rain of cannonballs, and the entire sky was covered by dense shells. Van Oka saw that Senju Hashirama wanted to make a move, so he quickly stopped him. "Senju Hashirama, don't make a move, leave this kind of gun battle to me." After Van Oka finished speaking, he raised the sniper rifle in his hand, shot after shot like lightning, and exploded the shells that might fall on the ship. Boom, 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 boom. Before the shells approached the ship, they were already exploded in midair, as if setting off fireworks. Shells exploded in the air one after another. Senju Hashirama saw that Van Oka could solve it, so he didn't rush to make a move, and stood aside quietly waiting for the two ships to approach slowly. Pika looked at the pirates on the ship, and used the hull aiming gun method. His face gradually darkened. 9 of the 10 shells missed, and the remaining one was blown up by the sniper on the opposite side. All the pirates have been with him for a long time, and he will suspect that these pirates are all undercover agents sent by the opposite side. When the two ships approached him and saw the pirate flag on the opposite side clearly, Pika's already dark face was now as black as the bottom of a pot, and he cursed in his heart, "Why did the Wanjian pirates and the bastards appear here?" Chapter 242, Pika comes to De Ris Rosa. Pika looked at the menacing pirate ship, and he knew that he was not the opponent of the Wanjian pirates, so he directly ordered the pirates beside him, "Go and contact Dover and tell us that we met near the port." There may be a conflict among the members of the Wanjian pirates, so let him come over to support him. When the pirate next to him heard the Wanjian pirates, his expression changed drastically and he exclaimed, "Is that the ship of the Wanjian pirates, one of the 5 emperors?" Boom. The pirate was so frightened that he sat down on the deck, trembling, and said to himself, "The enemy is actually the 10,000 swords pirates led by the Dragon King Moran, then we are finished." Pika saw that the pirate was scared like this, and knew that it would be useless to expect him to contact Doflamingo, and he had to rely on himself at the critical moment. Thinking of this, Pika stopped writing. March 20th, rushed to the interior room of the ship, found a phone bug wearing glasses on the table, and called it directly. Boo 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 boo. However, the phone bug rang for a long time and no one answered it. Pika's face was ugly, and Doflamingo didn't answer the phone. This usually happens, either because the phone bug wasn't with him, or something happened to Doflamingo. Pika thought of the ship approached by the Wanjian pirates, and suddenly had an ominous premonition in his heart for no reason. Could something really happen to Doflamingo? Pika didn't dare to think about it anymore, and quickly picked up the phone bugs of other cadres on the table and called them all one by one. Boo 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 boo, boo boo, boo boo, caw sauce. After Pika tried the phone bugs of several cadres, a phone bug was finally connected, and all the cadres were able to get through with Monet's phone bug. Pika, who was eager to understand the situation, anxiously asked, "Monet, what do you mean? Why can't other cadres and Dover's phone bug get through?" Monet didn't speak immediately, but after a long silence, he replied, "The young master and other cadres are dead, you must not go back to de Rosa, or you will die too." "What did you say? Monet, are you kidding? This joke is not funny at all." When Pika heard the news of Doflamingo's death, he didn't believe it at first, but when he thought about it carefully, Monet didn't seem like a person who would make such a joke, so he became incoherent directly. Pika yelled madly, "I've only been out for 2 days, and now you're telling me that Dover and the cadres are all dead." Monet explained, "The enemy is too strong and there is nothing we can do. We only fought with them for half a day, and they killed them one by one." After a pause, he continued to explain, "The only reason I'm alive is that they think I'm still useful, so they didn't kill me, or else I'd be dead now." Pika gradually calmed down, and asked with a dark face, "What kind of enemy can defeat you all in half an hour?" Pika suddenly thought of the Wanjian pirates who were approaching at this time, and asked Monet, "Did the Wanjian pirates do it?" Monet, "That's right, the people from the Wanjian pirates did it." A-hole, 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 bang bang bang. Pika was furious in the room, cursing and smashing everything he saw, and it didn't take long for the room to become a mess, except for the phone bug in his hand, he smashed everything to pieces. "Calm down, Pika, don't think about avenging the young master, remember never to return to de Rosa, the enemy is too powerful. Revenge is no different from death." Monet heard the voice of smashing things to the opposite side hasten to persuade. Although Pika was angry at this time, she was not a person who didn't know what to do, but when she thought that the Wanjian pirates' ship had approached, she suddenly said helplessly, "I have come to the port of de Rosa now, and Wanjian the pirates are approaching me, it's too late." Caw sauce. After Pika finished speaking, he hung up the phone, and it was meaningless to say any more at this time, because he couldn't run away at such a short distance. Moreover, he is also a rock fruit capable person, he is a dragon on land, but he is a worm in the sea, his ability in the sea is really indescribable. Boom. Da 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 da. The door of the room was knocked open by a pirate, and the pirate quickly ran to Pika and reported, "Master Pika's enemy ship has approached us not far away, what should we do now?" Pika looked at the pirates with a solemn face, and now he was not in the mood to blame him in this situation, but asked, "How many people are there on their boat, have you seen them clearly?" Pirate, "They only have 2 people on board." When Pika heard that there were only 2 people, she was secretly happy. If they escaped while they were not together, they should be able to escape. Thinking of this, Pika ordered directly, "Come on, come out with me to have a look." After Pika finished speaking, she walked out on the deck, and the pirates behind quickly followed. Shish. Boom boom boom. When the two came to the deck, the distance between the 2 pirate ships was less than 50 meters, but none of the shells hit, and the opposite ship was still naked. Seeing that these shells were useless, Pika knew that it would be of no benefit to him to continue pestering, so he directly ordered, "You go and order, we will turn the bow of the ship immediately, and run away in the opposite direction of de Rosa." "Yes, I'll arrange it right away." After the pirate finished speaking, he ran to the other pirate 1.8. After sending the order, he called a few people to help turn the bow of the ship. Pika's pirate ship turned its bow slowly, and quickly fled in the opposite direction of de Rosa. Seeing several pirates, Pika was still firing cannons, and shouted angrily, "The shells have no effect on them at all, so hurry up and help sail the boat. Get out of the seat as fast as you can." Seeing that the boat behind him was getting closer, Pika directly threatened, "Hurry up, if they catch up, I'll throw you all into the sea to feed the fish." Yes. After hearing this, a group of pirates on the ship could only desperately sail away to the distance, not daring to delay for a moment. Chapter 243, Senju Hashirama v Kadri Pika. Wanjian pirates here. At this time, several avatars of Senju Hashirama were sailing the boat, and both Senju Hashirama and Fan-oka were beside the railing, ready to land on each other's boat to fight. At this moment, Senju Hashirama saw the pirate ship suddenly speeding up and fleeing, turned his head and looked at Fan-oka and asked, "Fan-oka and the others want to escape, is there a way to stop their ship?" Fan-oka confidently assured, They will never run away, watch me knock down their sails. Senju Hashirama looked at Fan-oka in surprise, he just asked casually just now, he wanted to step on the water, but he didn't expect this guy to have a way. After Fan-oka finished speaking, he raised the sniper rifle in his hand, aimed at the boat of the Don Quixote family, and directly pulled the trigger. Bang 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 bang. After firing several shots in a row, Fan-oka confidently put down the sniper rifle in his hand, quietly waiting for the result. Not long after, the canvas of the Don Quixote family suddenly fell down without warning. It turned out that Fan-oka had hit the rope that tied the canvas. The canvas fell directly without the rope, and the boat of the Don Quixote family lost power and slowly stopped. Seeing this scene, Senju Hashirama praised, "It's okay. Fan-oka, you can hit a rope that is so small and so far away." Fan-oka scratched his head in embarrassment, and said modestly, "My ability is not worth mentioning, but you combat members are amazing." After the two exchanged a wave of business, they both became quiet and did not speak, quietly waiting for the ship to approach slowly, and when the ship approached, it was time to start the war. This side of the Don Quixote family's ship. Pika looked at the falling canvas with a dark face and shouted, "What the hell is going on here?" Hearing Pika's roar, a pirate ran over and reported, "Report. Master Pika, our canvas was shot down by the sniper on the opposite side, the boat lost its power, and now the boat can no longer move." A-hole, a-hole, a-hole. Pika was circling in circles angrily, cursing, but he could only roar incompetently. A boat without canvas was like a person without feet, and the boat couldn't continue sailing at all. When the people on the boat saw Pika getting angry, they all moved away from Pika in fear, as if they were afraid that Pika would explode suddenly and knock them all off. After roaring for a while, Pika gradually calmed down, and said to the pirates on board, "Everyone, get ready to fight. Although their Wanjian pirates are powerful, there are only 2 of them on board now, and neither are we. There's no chance." "That's right, there are only 2 of them, and the Dragon Emperor Moran is not on board, we don't need to be afraid of them, we will fight with them directly. Without Dragon King Moran, the 10,000 Swords pirates have nothing to fear. Maybe we can defeat them and become famous in one fell swoop. Yes, fight them, fight with them, ho 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 ho." After listening to Pika's words, the pirates on the boat all mustered up their courage and cheered for themselves, as if they were not afraid of the Wanjian pirates. However, these pirates spoke powerfully, but their feet kept shaking. Some pirates couldn't even hold their weapons steadily and almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, the reaction was quick and the weapon was gripped again, otherwise the morale that was finally gathered would probably disappear in an instant. "Look, someone is stepping on the sea and rushing towards him." A pirate shouted in shock when he saw Senju Hashirama stepping on the water and rushing towards him. Pika also saw Senju Hashirama on the sea level, who was on the ground, and quickly ordered, "Sink him with a cannon, and don't let him approach our ship." Pika saw the pirate who was still stunned in shock, and shouted angrily, "What are you doing? Hurry up and sink him." "Oh, yes yes yes." The pirates on the ship finally came to their senses, and hurried to the fort to operate, with a clear division of labor between loading and aiming. Bang bang bang. Puff puff puff, puff. However, before they fired their guns, the pirates near the fort were brought down one after another by Fan-oka. Now the distance between the two ships is only about 20 to 30 meters. For snipers, it is simply not too simple. Not good. It's the sniper on the opposite side. Leave the fort quickly. How could it be so accurate? ... Are you stupid? That is the sniper of the 10,000 Swords pirates, how could he be spotted by the Dragon King Moran? The pirates on the ship didn't dare to stay by the fort, for fear that they would be the next to be brought down, so they all took cover to hide. Pat. Senju Hashirama finally managed to jump on the boat of the Don Quixote family. After looking around, he found that all the pirates on the boat were hiding behind the bunkers. Except for Pika, none of the pirates dared to show their faces. Scared. Pika looked at Senju Hashirama who had jumped onto the boat, and asked with an ugly face, "What is the purpose of catching up with us? Isn't it enough to kill Dover and so many cadres? Do you still want to kill us all?" PFF ha 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 ha. Senju Hashirama heard Pika's voice like a duck, bent down and laughed, his shoulders kept shaking, and he couldn't stop his tears from laughing. Not good. Master Pika is going to lose her temper. Li Nuo's Yang. Run away, stupid. This is on the sea, where can we go? Ruined. When the pirates on the ship heard Senju Hashirama's voice making fun of Pika, the crowd burst into flames, and they ran and couldn't get away and ran around on the ship. Pika was trembling from anger, his whole face was green from anger, he gritted his teeth and roared at Senju Hashirama, "How dare you laugh at me, you go to hell." After roaring, Pika took out a large knife several meters long, and rushed towards Senju Hashirama directly. He came in front of Senju Hashirama in an instant, raised his strength and drove towards Senju Hashirama. Senju Hashirama burst out with blue chakra, chakra covered his whole body, his arm quickly covered Haki, and met the big knife that fell down with an ordinary punch. Chapter 244, Senju Hashirama Kadri Pika continuation. Boom, catch, catch, catch. The two collided in an instant, their fists and swords were in a stalemate and refused to give in to each other. On the deck under their feet, spider webs spread rapidly in all directions. After a while, the entire deck was covered with cracks. It is possible that it will fall apart. Senju Hashirama showed a smile on his face, looked at Pika and answered the question he just asked. Master Moran said that no cadre of the Don Quixote family can be spared, so none of you can escape today. Pika gritted her teeth and said, don't think you're going to get me, it's not certain who will win later. After Pika finished speaking, he waved the big knife and slashed at Senju Hashirama at a speed as fast as lightning, only the afterimage of the big knife could be seen. However, no matter how fast Pika swung the big sword, Senju Hashirama remained calm, blocking all the coming big sword with one hand. Bang bang bang, bang. Kacha-cha-kacha. The aftermath of the collision between the two rattled the deck, and the spider webs on the deck became denser and denser. Pirate 1. Look, the deck is cracked. Pirate 1. This ship will fall apart sooner or later. Pirate 2. There is only one way now, and that is to defeat the enemy as soon as possible. Otherwise, if you let them continue to fight, you may not be able to support the ship before the winner is determined. Pirate 1. You mean we go together, and help Master Pika defeat the enemy before the ship falls apart? Pirate 3. Don't forget the sniper who hit every shot just now, we are not the only ones who have partners, if we go together, the sniper will definitely appear. 7. Pirate 2. This doesn't work, that doesn't work, so what do you think we should do? One Piece 3 didn't know what to do, he just felt that he couldn't do it, but he didn't have any solution. The pirates on the ship were still hiding behind the bunker, and they whispered to each other when they saw the ship falling apart, but after discussing for a long time, there was no solution. Bang bang bang. Senju Hashirama blocked the knife that was slashing at him with one hand, looked at Pika and secretly complained. I thought I would meet a strong man, but I didn't expect to be such a weak guy, the tendons in this body are really growing for nothing. Senju Hashirama didn't want to continue playing, suddenly increased his strength, and punched hard on the big knife that was slashing over. Crack. Ding. Bump. Pika's big knife was directly smashed into pieces, and then the fist continued to hammer on his stomach, and Pika flew upside down in an instant, smashing into the house at the stern. Boom. Boom. The house at the stern was directly smashed through, and then collapsed, and Pika was buried in the wooden ruins. Master Pika. The pirates on the boat saw that Pika was being knocked into the air, and ran over to check it anxiously. Some pirates flipped over the plank, trying to rescue Pika who was buried inside. Some pirates looked at Senju Hashirama tremblingly, preventing Senju Hashirama from coming to prevent them from saving people. Bump. A group of pirates hadn't turned over many boards when the inside of the ruins suddenly exploded, and a figure rushed out of it as fast as lightning. Pat. After the figure landed on the deck, everyone could see that it was Pika. Forgive him for rushing out of the ruins himself. Pika-sama, are you alright? Facing everyone's inquiries, Pika just kept a dark face and said nothing, staring at Senju Hashirama as if he wanted to swallow him alive. Seeing that Pika ignored them, the pirates on the boat didn't continue to ask, but from the way his mouth was bleeding, he must have been injured. Pika stared at Senju Hashirama for a long time, and said with an ugly face, you actually hid your strength at the beginning, and then suddenly used your full strength until the end. D is really calculating. At the beginning, Senju Hashirama's strength was about the same as his, but the last punch just now directly knocked him into a daze. Even though he is so strong, but he pretended to be on par with him, Pika directly mocked Senju Hashirama. Asking for flowers. Senju Hashirama looked at this imaginative Pika strangely, and wanted to explain that he just wanted to fight for a while so that he didn't use his full strength. But after thinking about it, he decided to forget it, because there is no need to explain so much to a dying person. Thinking of this, Senju Hashirama did not deny it, and directly mocked. Weak people will say that the enemy uses conspiracy and tricks, and the real strong will never care how powerful the enemy is and what methods they use. When Pika heard Senju Hashirama's words, his face was as black as the bottom of a pot, and he gnashed his teeth and roared. You D only hit me once, do you really think that you can defeat me? After Pika finished speaking, armament Haki quickly covered the whole body from the top of the head, and the whole person was completely covered by Haki after a while. Pika, whose whole body was covered by Haki, said triumphantly, this is my strongest state, most people can't even break my defense, let alone defeat me. Boom. Senju Hashirama looked at the terrified Pika, and disappeared without saying a word, leaving only a big hole on the deck, and he came to Pika in an instant, clenched his fist and punched it hard. To Pika's chest. Quote! Pika instantly turned into a small shrimp, a ball of blue energy directly passed through his body, and the blue energy burst out directly from his back, and the clothes and armor on his back were instantly smashed into pieces. Wow. Bending his feet off the ground and spitting out a mouthful of old blood, he was not sent flying, but hung on Senju Hashirama's fist. Pika looked at Senju Hashirama in disbelief, and said to himself in a decadent way, how can it be so strong? Haki, who I have cultivated so hard, can't even withstand a single punch. Boom. Senju Hashirama threw him on the deck like dead garbage, and Pika lay motionless on the deck like a pile of mud. Although he didn't have any injuries on the surface, all the bones in his body had been shattered by Senju Hashirama's punch. Chapter 245. The naval battle ends. The pirates on the ship looked at Senju Hashirama in shock, their eyes were dull, and they forgot that the two sides were fighting at this time. Pirate 1 gradually came back to his senses, looked at Pika who was lying on the deck, and said tremblingly, even Master Pika couldn't stop his punch, how could we beat this monster? Quote. Pirate 2 said in a deep voice with an ugly face, if we can't beat it, we will fight, because we have no way out. Pirate 3 clenched the weapon in his hand, walked forward slowly and said, the only thing waiting to meet us is death, and there is still a little hope if we fight. Duck duck. Fight with him. Someone took the lead and others followed suit, rushing towards Senju Hashirama. The threat of death made them forget their fear for a while. Senju Hashirama looked at a group of pirates rushing towards him, clasped his hands together in the face of danger, exuding a turnaround all over his body, and a blue chakra began to emerge from his body. Wood-style mystery. Birth of the tree realm. Trees suddenly appeared on the deck, meeting the rushing pirates, and slowly there were more and more trees on the deck. What the hell is this? What? Go away. Get away from me. The trees seemed to be alive, directly binding the rushing pirates firmly. No matter how hard they struggled, they couldn't get rid of the trees wrapped around their bodies. There were more and more trees on the deck, and Senju Hashirama suddenly soared into the sky, away from their boat, landed on the sea not far away, and stood firmly on the sea. Caw caw caw. Bang bang bang. Ah, ah. The pirates on the ship were strangled by the trees one after another. There was a sound of bone shattering and screams, and slowly the whole ship was submerged in the sea of trees. Boom. Rumbling. After Shuai strangled all the pirates on the ship to death, the pirate ship was not spared, and was directly strangled to death by Shuai. After Senju Hashirama saw that the pirates on the ship were almost dead, he put away the chakra wood-style secret technique that controlled the sea of trees. As Senju Hashirama put away the chakra, the already fragmented pirate ship slowly sank to the bottom of the sea, leaving only some rotten boards floating on the sea. Senju Hashirama stayed on the surface of the sea for a while, and after confirming that there were no survivors floating up, he slowly walked towards his boat. Fan Oka saw Senju Hashirama walking back step by step on the sea. Even though it was not the first time he had seen him, he still couldn't help being amazed. He found that many of the combat members on the ship had their own abilities, but they were not afraid of sea water. He wanted to ask these people how they did it several times, but he thought that these might be their secrets, so he never dared to ask. The more he knew, the more dangerous he knew. After Senju Hashirama came to the side of the boat, he jumped more than 10 meters into the air and directly jumped over the boat, and then landed on the deck. Pat. After seeing Senju Hashirama fall, Fan Oka stepped up to meet him and asked, "How are you, Hashirama? You haven't been injured for so long, have you?" Senju Hashirama patted the non-existent dust on his body, and replied with a stinky face, "How can these little guys hurt me? Even if there are another 1,000 or 800, I will still sink them all into the bottom of the sea." Seeing Senju Hashirama's fart, Fan Oka knew that his worries were unnecessary, but he didn't find it strange when he thought about it carefully. Each of these combat members is as strong as a monster. It would be really strange if these pirates could really hurt him. Van Oka complained about Senju Hashirama in his heart for a while, and then asked again, "Are we going back to Doris Rosa now, or are we going back after a stroll?" They didn't notice when they chased them out just now. Their boat was already far away from Doris Rosa Island, and now they can't see the shadow of the island when they look back. Senju Hashirama looked at the boundless sea around him, scratched his head in embarrassment and asked, "We are far away from the island, do you know how to get back to Doris Rosa?" Van Oka spread his hands, and said helplessly, "I'm not a navigator, how could I know, and I was too busy chasing them just now, and I didn't remember the position." After a pause, he continued to propose, "How about we call the captain and ask him to call someone to pick us up?" Senju Hashirama waved his hands quickly when he heard this, and refused with a look of disgust. "No. If they come to pick us up, we will probably be laughed at by them to death." Fan Oka looked at Senju Hashirama, who was desperate for face, and said helplessly, "Both of us don't know how to sail. If we don't ask for help, we won't be able to find the route back." If Van Oka couldn't beat Senju Hashirama, he would have wanted to open this guy's head to see if it was full of water. At this time, he still cares about face. Is face more important than life? Although with their strength, they may not really die in a short time, but they are definitely half dead. Senju Hashirama was holding his chin with one hand and was thinking of a solution. Suddenly his eyes lit up, and he jumped up and said triumphantly, "I have already thought of a solution. We didn't chase it very far just now, so we only need 900 to find the direction of the island. We can go back." Fan Oka looked at the startled Senju Hashirama, looked at him like a fool and said, "Of course I know there is a way to go back, but the key now is that we don't know the way to go back." Senju Hashirama, "I have a solution for the direction problem. Wait for me for a while, and I will definitely be able to find the direction to go back." After Senju Hashirama finished speaking, he folded his hands together, and a stream of chakra emerged from his body, covering his whole body. Shadow clone technique. Bang bang bang, bang. People exactly like Senju Hashirama suddenly appeared on the deck and on the sea. Hundreds of Senju Hashirama appeared in no time, and the deck couldn't hold so many people, many of them were standing on the sea. How did you do it?" Fan Oka stuttered and asked while watching this scene. It's not that he hasn't seen the people on the boat use the clone technique, and he has seen it more than once. When Senju Hashirama sails, he can often see him using the clone technique to sail the boat. But it was the first time he saw so many avatars being used, and he couldn't even say what he was shocked about. Chapter 246. The Angry Kitten. After Senju Hashirama saw that it was almost enough, he stopped the shadow clone technique. At this time, there were Senju Hashirama's clones inside and out, densely packed with hundreds of thousands, all of which looked exactly the same. Fan Oka's scalp felt numb while watching from the sidelines, hundreds of thousands of Senju Hashirama, it must be this kind of person that one man formed an army. Seeing that Senju Hashirama finally stopped, Fan Oka stepped forward and asked, "Hashirama, what are you trying to do with so many clones?" Seeing Van Oka's shocked look, Senju Hashirama replied triumphantly, "This is the way I thought of, let them go back to the direction of Doris Rosa." Fan Oka heard Senju Hashirama's words, looked at the clones on the surrounding sea, and he instantly understood the meaning of opening Hashirama. He intends to let these clones that can walk on the sea spread out in all directions, to find the direction back to Deris Rosa. Although this search method seems very stupid, it is currently the most effective method. It is estimated that they will be able to find the way back in a short time. After Senju Hashirama finished speaking, he soared into the sky, landed on the observation deck, looked at the shadow clone below and ordered. You spread out in all directions, look for the surrounding islands, and if you find 690 islands, explode yourself and send me a message back. Do you understand? Understood. We explode. How is it possible? That's right, how could you blow yourself up if you didn't play enough? Come back when I've had enough fun. Goodbye. A group of shadow clone promised well at the beginning, but turned around and rebelled one after another. They simply didn't save Kaisho Hashirama any face. A group of shadow clones twittered, and then spread out in all directions. After a while, hundreds of shadow clones all ran away. Fan Oka stared at this scene dumbfounded, and he heard what shadow clone said, turned his head to look at Senju Hashirama and asked, "Are you sure these are clones, not real people?" Senju Hashirama scratched his head in embarrassment, and after a while he explained patiently, "The clone technique I used this time is different from the previous one. This time I used the shadow clone technique. These clones have their own consciousness, and they are all clones of entities, and they, CBFJ, are no different from a normal person except that they will disappear after being hit by a strong force." Although Fan Oka was shocked when he heard Senju Hashirama's explanation, he still asked again helplessly, "That's not what I meant, but is it really okay for these clones to find the island?" Senju Hashirama quickly explained. "Although they have their own consciousness, they still have to obey me, so they just complained just now, and they won't really come back after playing enough, so you can rest assured." Hearing such an explanation, although Fan Oka still didn't believe it, he didn't continue to ask, but found a place to sit down. Fan Oka gradually recovered after sitting down, looked at Senju Hashirama and secretly complained, "These combat members are really pervert." Although he has been on the ship all the time and knows that these combat members are very strong, what he understands is only the tip of the iceberg, and the more he understands, the more surprised he becomes. All kinds of strange abilities emerge endlessly. After this understanding, if he hears Senju Hashirama say that he can destroy the world, Fan Oka probably won't be surprised. King's Heights here. Moran was lying on a deck chair basking in the sun, Tornado was lying on him like a kitten as always, and there were several other ship members sitting in the open space around him. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. At this time, there was a sudden sound of footsteps from the direction of the stairs, and it was not the footsteps of one person, at least the footsteps of 4 or 5 people were slowly approaching the stairs. Moran, big brother, we're back. Before people could see it, the voice of Blue Bonnie came first. Da 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 da. Immediately afterwards, Blue Bonnie rushed out from the stairs, rushing straight to Moran who was lying on the deck chair. Moran, big brother, I'm back, do you miss me? I tell you, I defeated an enemy today. Robin, they all praised me, saying that I am also a fighter now. After the Blue Bonnie ran to Moran's side, the small mouth turned into a machine gun and fired at Moran. Moran opened his eyes and glanced at Blue Bonnie, rubbed his forehead and said helplessly, "Bonnie, can you stop being startled? If this continues, I will have a heart attack sooner or later." Blue Bonnie blushed when he heard Moran's complaint, and quickly apologized, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm just so happy." Moran looked at Lan Bonnie who was squatting next to her, rubbed her little head and said, "I'm just talking, I don't mean to be angry with you, and you don't have to take it too seriously." When Blue Bonnie heard Moran's words, she immediately revived with full blood, and ran to other people to share her today's victory. For a while, the entire King's Highland was filled with the joyful voice of Blue Bonnie chirping like a bird. At this time, several people came out of the stairs, all members of the Wanjian pirates. They had just finished dealing with the cadres of the Don Quixote family, and they were told by Uchiha Itachi to meet up at King's Highland, and they rushed here together. Come over. After Moran saw that everyone had returned, he looked at the kitten in his arms, raised his hand and slapped her little pee-pee. Snapped. Little kitty, wake up. Long Wan straightened up with a dazed expression on his face, rubbing his little pee-pee with one hand, and after gradually regaining consciousness, he flung his teeth and claws at Moran. B********** D Moran. I'm fighting you. The 9 yin white bone claws that Tornado learned from no one knew where, scratched at Moran, just like an angry little cat. Moran frantically blocked the attack from the Tornado, while threatening, "Tornado, you've almost got it, if you don't stop, I'll fight back." Instead of stopping, the Tornado speeded up, scratching and said, "Fight back, I won't be afraid of you." The Tornado was healed and the scars forgot the pain. She seemed to have forgotten the scene of being pressed and beaten by Moran, which also led to her subsequent tragedy. Chapter 247. Issue a mission to Arturia. Moran saw that the Tornado was still relentless, so he unceremoniously increased his strength. Now he can't care about the face of the Tornado, the big deal is to coax him after the fight, it's not like he hasn't played before he. Thinking of Moran here, he directly pressed the Tornado and was throbbing, screaming in pain. Tornado kicked his 2 little feet indiscriminately, trying to break free and run away. But how could Moran let this little girl who was breaking ground on Tai Sui's head run away, and he still pressed her hard and twitched hard. Seeing that he couldn't break free, Long Wan showed a vicious little expression, glared fiercely at Moran and said, Moran, you be asterisk 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 D, let me go, or I'll make you look good later. Crack, 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 crack. 210. However, what responded to her was Moran's slap. Not only did Moran not intend to stop, but he even slapped her harder. Moran smoked for a while before stopping his evil hands. He looked at Tornado with a smirk and asked, "What did you just say? I didn't hear clearly. Say it again." Humph. Tornado glared at Moran angrily, but just snorted without saying a word, and turned his head directly without looking at Moran. Being peeped by Moran again in front of so many people, she was embarrassed and angry at this time, wishing she could find a hole in the ground and get into it. Snapped. Seeing that the little girl still didn't know how to repent, Moran slapped her again before letting her go. The tornado that regained its freedom quickly levitated away from Moran, and after flying a few meters away, turned around and said viciously, "You be asterisk 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 D Moran, wait for me, you better not let me seize the opportunity, or I will let you I know how powerful Miss Ben is." Moran saw Tornado rubbing PG and yelling harsh words at him, and also showing a vicious little expression, which she thought was very fierce. However, for everyone present, not only was her little expression not fierce, but it also made everyone feel very kawaii. Moran heard Tornado's ruthless words, and made fun of him indifferently. "When you can stand up in front of me, we can talk about things like Tornado." He paused for a moment and then teased. "And with your fierce little expression, do you want to scare me to death, or do you want to cut me to death?" Ha 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 ha. When the people around heard Moran's words, they couldn't help bursting into laughter when they saw Tornado's little expression. They all bent over and burst into tears. You. Seeing so many people making fun of her, Longwan's face flushed with anger, and you and I couldn't say a complete sentence for a long time. "You all wait for me." With a flushed face, Tornado said harsh words, then angrily floated to the edge of King's Heights, and flew directly to the town below. Moran watched the tornado flying farther and farther, and didn't intend to stop her. This little girl will come back when she gets tired from playing. As for the safety of Tornado, with her strength, Moran doesn't need to worry about it. If she doesn't bully others, Moran will be Amitabha. After watching the tornado disappear from sight, Moran straightened up from the recliner, looked at Arturia and shouted, "Arturia, come here, I have something to trouble you to run." Arturia slowly came to Moran, and asked with a puzzled face, "Moran, what do you need me to do?" Moran Kaido. Go to the current king of De Rosa, and discuss with him the management of De Rosa. Arturia was still confused when she heard this and asked, "What's the problem with managing De Rosa?" She only knew that Moran was coming here to take down De Rosa, but she didn't know that Moran asked King Liku to manage De Rosa. So Moran asked her to negotiate with King De Rosa. She didn't know what to negotiate, she was confused by Moran. Moran saw Arturia's cute appearance, and wanted to pull her into his arms and bite her hard, but the time and occasion are not right now. After throwing some unhealthy thoughts out of his head, Moran explained patiently, De Rosa is our territory now, but we don't have time to manage it, so I let the previous king of De Rosa manage it, but the specific we didn't talk about how much protection fee we charge every year. You are more familiar with this aspect than me, so let's handle it by you. Arturia used to be the king of a country, better than him who doesn't know anything, so it's better for her to deal with these problems. He intends to let Arturia manage all aspects of this aspect in the future. Although the current way of collecting protection fees is different from her previous way of managing the kingdom, she has experience in managing the kingdom, and she can manage it quickly. His eyes were darkened. As for the pirate group under the management of Acedus, she is not familiar with this aspect anymore. After all, she used to be an admiral army. And Acedus is also a militant. A person like her who can't sit still, should be very happy to manage the pirate group. After Moran's explanation, Arturia came back from the dazed state and then confirmed. Replay, you mean to let me discuss with the Lord de Rosa about the annual protection fee and so on. Seeing that she finally understood, Moran smiled and said, "That's right, just like the other 4 emperors, how much protection fees are charged every year, you can go to the other 5 emperors to discuss the charging standards, which should help you a bit." Quote. I see. After Arturia understood the task Moran 0.9 gave her, she turned around and walked towards the stairs. Her character is such a non-sloppy character. Moran, big brother, you never asked me to do a mission, I am a warrior now, you also give me a mission for me to do. After seeing Arturia walking away, Blue Bonnie suddenly trotted to Moran, knelt down and asked expectantly. Moran showed a serious look, and after thinking for a while, he said, "Bonnie is also a soldier now, and it is also appropriate to issue a mission for you. As for the mission." What's the mission? Blue Bonnie nodded happily when he heard this, and asked Moran expectantly. Chapter 248. Lovely Blue Bonnie. Moran pretended to pinch his chin to think, and Blue Bonnie looked at him expectantly, just like a kitten waiting to be fed by its owner. Moran glanced at the expectant Blue Bonnie, and then said slowly, "Bonnie, listen carefully, I'm going to give you a very difficult task." Moran, big brother, tell me. Seeing that Blue Bonnie nodded frantically again, Moran rubbed his stomach and said, "We haven't eaten for a day, so the task I entrusted to you is to cook a rich meal and reward me for being hungry all day, little belly." What? After listening to Moran's words, Blue Bonnie's small face immediately collapsed, like a little hen who has been defeated in a fight, and lowered his little head listlessly. Ha 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 hiccup. Seeing Lan Bonnie's appearance, everyone couldn't help laughing crazily. People with low laughs couldn't straighten their backs, and quite a few even burst into tears. That's right, Bonnie, we haven't eaten all day, so hurry up and cook for us. Yes, Bonnie, we are all hungry, let's cook. This is a very difficult task. When Lan Bonnie heard what everyone said, his face flushed with shame, and he buried himself in Moran's arms, refusing to come out even if he said anything. Moran looked at the Blue Bonnie in his arms, rubbed her little head and said, Bonnie, Moran big brother, I've been hungry for a whole day, and if you don't cook, aren't you afraid of starving me to death? Blue Bonnie raised his head and pouted, looked at Moran and refused, I don't want to cook for Moran's big brother, you'll starve to death. Moran squeezed its pouty mouth, which was raised up to hang oil bottles, and teased. Yo. Our Bonnie has learned to be angry. Snapped. Blue Bonnie slapped Moran's sinful hand away, and said angrily, Moran big brother, you are a bad guy, you know how to bully others. HMPH. People ignore you. Moran looked at the angry Blue Bonnie, stretched out his sinful hands, pinched her puffy cheeks, and said a little funny, Bonnie, are you sure you don't want to talk to me? After a pause, he then said casually, I wanted you to deal with those people who were turned into toys and are making trouble now, since you don't want to talk to me. Then I'll let someone else handle it. Don't, Moran big brother knows it's wrong. You just don't remember the villain's mistakes, please forgive me this time. Blue Bonnie instantly turned into a little girl again, grabbing Moran's arm and shaking it for a while, showing a pitiful little expression and coquettishly said. Seeing that Moran still didn't say a word, Blue Bonnie quickly ran behind him and beat his back and squeezed his shoulders. He was in a hurry and did not forget to please him. Moran big brother, you are the best person in the world, you just let me all go. While enjoying Blue Bonnie's service, Moran said meaningfully, I'm so hungry, I don't seem to remember what I said just now, if I have a rich dinner now, I should make up for it. Can you remember it? Da. Moran big brother, wait for a while, I'll make some delicious food for you right away. Blue Bonnie immediately ran to the stairs when he heard this, and said while running. Chatong looked at the Blue Bonnie who ran away without a trace, looked at Moran and asked worriedly, Master Moran asked Bonnie to deal with these things, is it really okay? Moran explained. She drank the physical enhancement potion I gave, and the General Marine Rear Admiral can't do anything to her. These pirates can't hurt her, so you can rest assured. Then he added. If you're not at ease, why don't you go with her later? Chatong was still a little worried after Moran's explanation, but she didn't continue to say anything. She would just go with Lan Bonnie later. In fact, Moran also intends to exercise Blue Bonnie, and it happens that Blue Bonnie also likes to deal with these things, so he has no reason to refuse Blue Bonnie's request. In fact, Lan Bonnie has been with him for so long and drank the physical enhancement potion he gave her. Now her strength is not weak. If she didn't have no combat experience, she might be able to compete with the average Marine Vice Admiral. This side of the port. A pirate ship is slowly approaching the port. There are only 2 people on board. They are the lost Senju Hashirama and Van Oka. Senju Hashirama's shadow clone searched for almost an hour before finding the way back. After finding it, they rushed back non-stop, as if they were afraid that others would know that they were lost. Senju Hashirama looked at Derice Rosa who was in front of him, turned his head to look at Van Oka and threatened. We just went overseas for a tour today, and nothing happened except for destroying a ship of the Don Quixote family other things, understand? He is a god of ninjas, but he still lost his way even though he was out in the sea, how embarrassing he would be if this got out. Van Oka understood instantly, pretending to be dazed and said, we are just going to eliminate the cadres of the Don Quixote family. Why can't I understand what other things you are talking about? Senju Hashirama remembered that this guy had always been famous for his quick talk on the ship, so he was still a little worried about Van Oka's pretending to be crazy. So he casually threatened again. Remember what you said today, if I hear news about today from others in the future, I will not do anything to you, at most I will break all 5 of your legs. Quote. Van Oka felt chilly in his lower body in an instant, and broke my 5 legs, Wong Jiao, you might as well kill me. Thinking of Van Oka here, he promised with a sad face, my mouth has always been very tight, and I promise I won't say it. When Senju Hashirama heard what Van Oka said, he showed a satisfied smile, and secretly thought, now he should not have the courage to say it. In fact, what Senju Hashirama is afraid of is not losing face, what he is really afraid of is being laughed at by others, especially Uchiha Madara's ridicule. If Uchiha Madara knows that he lost his way today, he will probably be laughed at for a long time. When the pirate ship docked, Van Oka looked at Senju Hashirama and asked, should we stay here, or go to the island to meet them? Senju Hashirama glanced at Van Oka and asked, now that the fight is over, why are we still here? Chapter 249. Senju Hashirama finally returns to Derice Rosa. Van Orca. Don't we need to see the boats? Senju Hashirama. My clone will watch the boat, you don't need to worry about that. Van Orca. Is your clone okay? Senju Hashirama turned his head and his face gradually became dangerous, staring at Van Oka firmly and said, I can kill 10 weak chickens like you with 1 clone, if you don't believe us, let's compete. Van Oka felt uncomfortable being stared at by Senju Hashirama, and quickly waved his hands. Don't. I don't want to die so early, I haven't lived enough. Although Van Oka doesn't quite believe what Senju Hashirama said, but he doesn't want to know the truth, so let's skip the gestures. Each of these combat members is as strong as a monster, he doesn't want to fight with these people, otherwise he doesn't know how he died. Senju Hashirama didn't make things difficult for Van Oka when he saw that he had confessed his cowardice. He didn't bother to bully the children, so he clasped his hands together and gave a shout. Shadow clone technique. Bang bang bang. I really clapped my hands and shouted. 3 shadow clones appeared on the boat in an instant, all of them looked exactly like Senju Hashirama. Pat. Senju Hashirama, who finished all this, jumped off the boat and walked directly to the interior of the island, urging Van Oka without looking back. Don't look at Van Oka, come down quickly, Master Moran and the others may be waiting for you right now. Let's have dinner. Come right away. Van Oka checked the boat left and right, and after he felt that there was no problem, he followed Senju Hashirama's footsteps and walked slowly towards the interior of the island. At this time, on the side of Wangji Heights, the sky has gradually darkened, and night is coming quietly. Although the highlands of the king are calm, the towns below the highlands of the king are now in full swing. Although there was not as much movement as during Moran's battle during the day, explosions could still be heard from time to time, and fires could be seen everywhere on the streets, burning many houses to dilapidated ruins and thick smoke billowing. Blue Bonnie didn't intend to go back to the boat to cook dinner, because King's Highland was too far from the port, and King's Highland had everything, so he cooked dinner directly at King's Highland. After working for an hour, Blue Bonnie looked at the large table of dinner in front of him, smiled happily and said to himself, this should be enough for them. After talking to himself, Blue Bonnie turned around and walked towards the high ground where Moran was. He had to hurry and ask Moran and others to come to dinner. He still had something to do after dinner. Blue Bonnie climbed up the tall stairs and finally came to the high ground where Moran was. After walking out of the stairs, he shouted directly to everyone, Moran, big brother and everyone, dinner is ready, come down and eat. Hearing Blue Bonnie's voice, Moran jumped up from the recliner and said as he walked towards the stairs, I've been hungry all day, and I finally have something to eat. The others followed Moran's footsteps one after another. They hadn't eaten all day, and their chests were already hungry. Luo watched everyone running faster than rabbits, looked at Moran and pointed to Baby 5 on the ground and asked, Captain, what should we do if we are all gone? When Moran heard this, he said without looking back, she is your little girl, and you are familiar with her, so I leave it to you to take care of her. Luo looked at the unconscious Baby 5 on the ground, and immediately wanted to cry without tears. He only had contact with Baby 5 when he was a child, and he only knew her a little bit, but familiarity is far from enough. He has been away from the Don Quixote family for so long, and he will feel strange to people he is familiar with now, not to mention that he has always regarded himself as an enemy of the Don Quixote family, so when he contacts the people in the Don Quixote family, his mind is full of revenge and concern. It's all about the strength of these people, now let him take care of Baby 5, he doesn't know where to start. After Luo stood there for a long time, thinking of his experience as a doctor in North Blue, his eyes lit up and he said to himself, I don't know how to deal with it, so let's treat it like a patient. Anyway, she is still a patient now. After Luo figured this out, he directly carried Baby 5 on his shoulders, and caught up with Moran and others who had already reached the stairs. Moran came to the stairs and saw the Blue Bonnie with a smile on his face, and asked curiously, Bonnie, what can make you so happy? Asking for flowers. Blue Bonnie ran to Moran's side, hugged his arm and said happily, I can do the task later, this is the first time I am doing the task, of course I am happy, Moran big brother, please go faster. Quote. Moran looked at the Blue Bonnie who kept pulling him down the stairs, shook his head helplessly, and then quickened his pace. After half an hour, after wolfing down his dinner, Blue Bonnie stood up and looked at Moran and asked, Moran big brother, can I go to the task now? Moran, who was eating with his head down, raised his head when he heard Blue Bonnie's words, glanced at Blue Bonnie, and said, I won't stop you if you really want to go, but you must be careful, you know. Lan Bonnie quickly assured, I know Moran big brother, I will definitely come back safely, you can rest assured. Da 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 da. After Lan Bonnie finished speaking, he ran out in a hurry, as if he was afraid of Moran's repentance, he ran away without a trace. Moran looked at Chitong, who was still busy cooking, and said, Chitong, your job has already left, why don't you protect your job? Chitong looked at the delicious food in front of him, and said in a negotiating tone, Master Moran, can I finish eating and go? Moran glanced at Chitong, and said indifferently, you can decide whether you want to go or not. You don't need to ask me. After all, Bonnie has always been protected by you. Moran knew that Chitong would definitely go, and he said that deliberately just to tease her and watch her perform a face-changing Sichuan opera. Chitong looked at the delicious food in front of him, and then at the direction Lan Bonnie was walking, showing a very tangled expression, not knowing what to do for a while. I'm going to protect Bonnie right away. After thinking about it, Chitong still felt that a long-term job is more important. After grabbing some delicious food, she also stood up and ran outside. Moran saw that Chitong didn't forget to grab some food before he left, so he immediately complained speechlessly, as expected of a famous foodie. Chapter 250. Van Oka sold by Senju Hashirama. After Moran watched Chitong walk out of the restaurant, he looked at Acedus and said, Acedus, you will take 1 or 2 people out to sea tomorrow, recruit some powerful pirates, and be our pirates, our subordinates. There are still too few pirates now. Hearing this, Acedus stood up and said excitedly, I can handle things like Moran by myself, and I don't need to bring other people. Moran glanced at Acedus, and directly refused. I'm not afraid that you won't be able to complete the task, but I'm afraid that you'll go crazy and not come back. Moran just wanted to send 1 or 2 people to watch her. If Acedus was allowed to go alone, there might be some big troubles, and it would be him or someone who wiped his A** by then. Seeing Moran's resolute attitude, Acedus asked in a moment of hesitation, then who are you going to send with me? Moran looked around at the people at the table, but no one stood up, obviously they didn't want to go. Moran looked at the people at the table and asked, any one of you who wants to go out to 21 to have fun, just stand up. Seeing that no one spoke, Moran asked again, if any of you don't want to go, please raise your hand. If you really can't, I'll call the roll. Fubuki. I'm not familiar with this place yet and I don't want to go. Arturia. I can do it. Uchiha Itachi. Me too. Robin. It's useless if I go. Dragon Wan. I'm not going. Moran looked at everyone's answers, rubbed his forehead and started to have a headache. Arturia couldn't go if he had to attack. He also used Uchiha Itachi, the sharp sword in the dark, very well. He didn't want to go to others, and neither is appropriate, even if they want to go Moran will not agree to let them go. Robin is the navigator of the 10,000 Swords Pirates, so she must not be able to go, and her strength is not strong enough. The 2 sisters of Tornado have been inseparable since they came here, and Tornado is so resistant. Hope. Chitong has been following Moran since she came here, and she is protecting Moran in the name of protecting him. It is probably useless to ask her to go. Just when Moran didn't know how to choose, a red light flashed in his eyes suddenly, and a happy smile appeared on his face. He already had a candidate who could complete this task with Acedus. Moran looked at Acedus and said, the people Acedus is going with you are on their way. Tomorrow our Rose Pirates will pick you up. I have already contacted them. You can start tomorrow. Acedus glanced at the door of the restaurant and nodded thoughtfully. He also sensed the approaching person with his knowledge, and knew who Moran was talking about. Moran went on to instruct. Your task is also very simple. It is to build the reputation of our Wanjian pirates, and to recruit a group of strong people to be our pirates. You don't need to call in all cats and dogs. I want it. Do the strong and the subordinates who have not done any evil understand? Acedus looked at Moran and thought secretly. Moran didn't know that I like war, so he gave me this kind of mission, right? Acedus remembered what Moran said in the afternoon, his face blushed slightly, and he thought secretly in his heart. I didn't expect Moran to be so kind to me, I must reward him before leaving. Moran saw Acedus sitting there blushing, and didn't know if he heard what he said, so he asked in a speechless voice, Acedus, what are you thinking? Are you thinking so engrossed? Are you listening to me? Oh, I'm listening, you continue to talk. Acedus said incoherently after hearing Moran's words. Moran looked at Acedus, who was incoherent and blushed, and had no interest in continuing the conversation. Let's talk together after Hashirama has been together. Thinking of this, Moran said directly to Acedus, we'll talk about this later, let's have dinner first. He wanted Senju Hashirama to go with Acedus. Anyway, since Uchiha Madara went out to collect the land, that guy has been clamoring to go out to do missions, and this time it fits his heart. Da 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 da. At this time, there was a sound of footsteps outside the restaurant, and they were slowly approaching the restaurant. Everyone in the restaurant looked towards the door of the restaurant. Guggy. The door of the restaurant was slowly opened from the outside, and Senju Hashirama and Van Oka walked in from the outside, and everyone saw that these 2 people looked away. After Van Oka came in, seeing more than half of the food on the table, he was immediately unhappy, and shouted directly, Captain, we worked hard to watch the ship at the port. You don't call us when you eat, you still have a conscience? Moran glanced at Van Oka, and asked blankly, conscience is not worth much, what do I want that thing for? Van Oka yelled directly, I was blinded at the beginning, so I followed such a captain. It's really unfair to meet people. God, I'm dead. Van Oka yelled in the restaurant, and the crowd of 510 people didn't even look at him. Everyone is already familiar with this playful guy. Van Oka saw that Senju Hashirama had quietly sat on the dining table and was burying his head in cooking, and cursed in his heart. Senju Hashirama, a traitor, just agreed to advance and retreat together. How many of you climbed onto the dining table as soon as you came in? Mean. When they came here just now, they ran into Chitong and Lan Bani on the way. They already knew the situation here, and the 2 of them agreed to show Captain Moran a little bit of color, but Senju Hashirama sold him out. Up. Seeing everyone at the table, Van Oka had no intention of answering him, and could only show an awkward yet polite smile and asked, Captain, what do you think of my performance just now? Moran lowered his head while cooking, and said casually, I don't know how your performance is, but I know that if you don't hurry up, you probably won't even have soup later. When Van Oka heard this, he quickly looked towards the dining table, and saw that the food on the table was disappearing rapidly, and he lost his composure in an instant. Van Oka's face turned black, he couldn't care less about playing tricks anymore, he rushed to the dining table and started to gobble up the food, grabbing the food with Senju Hashirama.